Alright, hello. I'd like to make a tier list, as the youths are prone to, about vestigial evolution of heavy metal, a micro-genre called Techno-Thrash, which is more well known today for people in the underground that care about these things as technical thrash or progressive thrash. A genre that came to be around 1984, spearheaded by the Texan band Watchtower, and inspired a few hundred outfits around the globe until 1991, 92, 93, and then most of that energy got subsumed into progressive metal proper, as Watchtower did as well. Eventually end up like a progressive metal band, leaving most of the thrash, speed metal thrash kind of identity behind. And some of it went into the much more popular style of technical death metal, the early technical death metal style of cynic or atheist. And the reason I'm interested in making this tier list isn't so much that I like ranking things. Actually, I don't at all. I think it's a crass thing to do with art. But then again, we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. The motivation is to do my small part, as I've done over the years, trying at least to keep the memory of the genre alive, because I do think still there's a lot of vitality to this kind of sound. And I don't want, or I'm imagining that more new bands are going to try to play techno-thrash for reasons we will discuss. There is a reason why this is a vestigial evolution of metal. It's more the ethos and what I believe were like the crucial elements of culture and ambition by the bands of that era that I would like to be re-examined, or at least part of the ongoing endless conversation of heavy metal in the underground by people that love this kind of music. So why do we call it techno-thrash? What is it? If we were doing a tier list of any other metal genre, we wouldn't have to go into definitions, because most people know what we're talking about. But exactly because if you said, thrash bands that played kind of like technical music, people would respond, oh, you mean like technical thrash or even progressive thrash. It's worth going through this spiel that I've gone through many times in my life. The name techno-thrash is the historical name of this microgenre because of Watchtower. Jason McMaster, I would suppose, penned flyers of the era talking about Watchtower. Much like Venom wrote black metal down and they thought it was their genre. Watchtower, it wasn't a genre, it was like a description of their particular sound. Watchtower were describing themselves when they were talking about techno-thrash. They weren't expecting people to crib their style, or even if they were, they didn't expect it to be historically a genre nowadays. So what McMaster was trying to say with techno-thrash, the flyer, which I sadly do not have anymore, I had like a JPEG of that flyer, but it seems to be lost in Google Images at this point, described early Watchtower music as abstract, complex techno-thrash. Techno-thrash. Now, this techno has nothing to do with the electronic music style of techno music. Hence why today we look at it like a misnomer, like calling this genre this, because it really is misleading. If somebody doesn't know what we're talking about, they would expect some sort of industrial-ish thrash, which is ironic because this is going to come into it eventually. There is like a crossover between the styles, but certainly not what the literal meaning of that would be, like technically minded or technical thrash. So it's understandable that people today talk about it in this new genre name, but it's also ahistorical, because at the time, especially in the European press, Watchtower made a big impact in Germany, in a few other countries, and those bands in the press were describing themselves or talking about this micro scene as techno-thrash. Now, it's important to explain how did this come to be, and why did thrash music end up being that kind of this cerebral and complicated kind of style. It's best to understand thrash not as a metal genre per se, but as an inflection point, a historical inflection point in metal music. Thrash was really big. Metallica really broke open a whole new kind of like era for metal, as opposed to going from new wave of British heavy metal like to the underground, like speed metal and all that stuff. There was hair metal on the other side, or glam, Poison, Warrant, all those kind of MTV bands. We all know about the friction between the two scenes, and obviously for the brief heyday of thrash, the Metallica style of music won and made the glam styles look not just outmoded but outright poserish, with all the baggage that comes, the rockism baggage that comes with this kind of thinking. Now, when Metallica break the scene open, and especially from Master of Puppets onwards, a lot of people are inspired to play this kind of music, but most of them don't stay in the thrash styles for long. They adopt the techniques of thrash and the sound design of thrash, which means a more extreme take on heavy metal and new wave of British heavy metal, with more crunch on the guitars, with triplets and more compressed playing, with double bass. Eventually we reach the point of extremity of blast beats and so on. So it's worth saying that like post Master of Puppets, that's like 86, 85, I don't remember exactly. I should know stuff like this, but 84? Anyway, is Ride the Lightning 84? Anyway, actually, I have, let's be a little bit more thorough. I have a little Metal Archives going, so let's be correct about the things we say. Master of Puppets is 86, yes. Post 86, all metal people that play metal, well, not all, but most, are informed of the techniques of thrash, even if they're not playing thrash. Like if you listen to Epicus Doomicus Metallicus by Candlemas, which is another seminal piece of music that starts a genre of doom metal or epic doom metal, if you want to be into micro genres. Candlemas obviously had listened to Metallica. They have listened to Ride the Lightning. They have listened to Kill 'Em All. So thrash is a scene, and thrash is a genre, but also it is a point of like an explosion, a Cambrian explosion of extreme metal of all sorts, and at least more advanced kind of thinking than the new wave of British heavy metal that came before it. In this way, it is the best way to understand what Techno-Thrash was for a small period of time. It is not just thrash becoming more technical, it is the kids of that generation that grew up with speed metal, like a new wave of British heavy metal, now transcending into speed metal and thrash metal. What is speed metal? It's kind of like heavy metal with thrash technique as well, like faster, more extreme, more riffs, higher pitched vocals. Power metal is close by to those styles. There was a lot of cross-pollination between these things. And they were the people of the time. Even though I'm born in 84, I have a historical interest in heavy metal. I think it's fair to say that in 86 or 87, power metal, speed metal, even thrash metal, those things are kind of a little bit interchangeable. They all mean, the ethos of it is, this is not your daddy's hard rock. Faster, meaner, more sci-fi. Sci-fi is a good thing to keep in mind. So all the kids that like got into thrash, they were seeking the further expression of the style. Some of it becomes death metal. Some of it becomes techno-thrash. And most of that scene, eventually, the people that have those bands start other bands, or even their same bands turn into progressive metal. Progressive metal has thrash technique, as everything does after 86, but is not necessarily by people that value thrash, the headbanger ethos of like bang your head against a stage till metal takes its price, bonded by blood. Not necessarily this kind of rowdy subgenre of metal listener, but they do take the precision, the mechanized precision of thrash metal as described by Metallica and then the German scene and so on. So if thrash is the next era in the public eye of metal after the new wave of British heavy metal, and also it's the point where it comes out from the underground and suddenly normal people are listening to Metallica by 1990, by the Black Album. A reaction to that is people trying to do returning to the underground, obviously, to a certain degree. It is to do more cerebral, deeper, more nuanced, more humanist, more political kinds of thrash. And that is where we find Watchtower with their first album in 1984. However, this tier list is going to be, as you see it, like I'll start with End Amen and I'll end with Aspid. It's okay, that's how we do tier lists. I found out on the internet. We don't necessarily go from a historical, we don't go with the way the albums came out one after the other. We'll paint a picture little by little. Anything else important to talk about up front about this style of music, abstract, complex techno-thrash? Obviously, virtuosity is a part of this. Like thrash is already, now it's old hat. Like most people that play metal are of the post-thrash generation. They learned how to play Master of Puppets when they were 15 years old and moved onwards to like extremely way more advanced kind of playing, reaching into jazz, reaching into sometimes modern composition, very, very technically minded players that spend their whole lives trying to learn to play their instruments and all that. But back in the mid-80s, there aren't that many virtuosos in the space, and certainly not a lot of people that listen to fusion and want to bring kind of like Al Di Meola or Chick Corea style of licks into metal. Because metal at the time, part of its identity is saying a big screw you to adults and to finesse and to kind of normal people. Like a lot of fusion would sound, in that context, would sound like elevator music to the thrash generation. But some do. Some see a valuable crossover between the styles. And it's not an accident that Rush is the biggest influence on this style. It's like a good way to describe Watchtower, and I think Watchtower did describe themselves in this way, is what if you took Metallica and Rush and you kind of like cross-pollinated those two styles of music. Now Rush aren't even a heavy metal band in modern eyes, but they certainly were at the time. They're a second generation progressive rock band. They're not of the era of Genesis and Yes and King Crimson. They listen to these bands. And on their early records they bring a lot more crunch. They bring kind of like the bombast that is similar to proto-metal or bands like Rainbow or especially Led Zeppelin. So for the headbangers of the early 80s, certainly Rush was on the table. So how did I reach this point? Oh, you're talking about virtuosity. Virtuosity is a big part of the early sound of techno-thrash, but it isn't the end-all be-all. If you compare most of these bands that we're going to be talking about, their output, it sounds a little bit to today's like technical metal, generally speaking, like death metal. I guess mostly it's death metal, technical death metal that still remains to this day. We will find that these are more rudimentary, but also like another way to say rudimentary in this case is seminal. There's the promise of things to come. And that's why this genre is so interesting to return to and look at it, because it's very young people without a path laid down for them by their progenitors, kind of exploring the outer reaches of what you can do with thrash technique or speed metal technique, like the extreme metal of the time, like playing fast, playing rowdy, being loud, being non-melodic at times, playing music for insiders, but at the same time trying to make a more adult examination of their lives, of the modern life of the 80s. Let's not forget that the 80s were a time of Cold War. The threat of nuclear apocalypse was ever present. When I was like a kid born in 84, by 89 I remember having dreams of the bombs falling and kind of disintegrating me. So that paranoid fear was in the air. So that also brings kind of a desperate cry to describe an existence to heavy metal, like because the days might be over. And heavy metal has always been kind of an eschatological kind of music. The funeral bell tolls since 1969, and because also this is more prescient than ever. Like heavy metal fits our age again, exactly because we are seemingly reaching the end game of our culture. the limits of ecological resources on the earth and such. It's interesting to see what teenagers of a different time but of a similar anxiety brought to the table to heavy metal. This is a list of albums that for the most part are not about dragons and escapism, although some of them might have a little bit of that going on. They are about thinking beings using their subcultural tools of heavy metal to tell us a truth. And that's what's so beautiful about this scene. And that's something that is also getting lost a little bit when we get into progressive metal, post Images and Words, post Dream Theater, because truth becomes again kind of like the world didn't end, the bombs didn't fall. We were now in the era, in the 95, 96, 97, of eternal capitalism, the end of history. This kind of music, the anxieties of this kind of music turn inwards. They turn towards like, we go to the other side of Rush, like, I'm a misunderstood genius. People don't understand how smart I am. I'm listening to this cool music that is made by virtuosos and is like so much cooler than pop music. And you peons, you normal humans don't understand how brilliant I am. I am misunderstood. This becomes the chorus of progressive metal after 95. But the music we're gonna be ridiculously putting in a tier today is not, its point is not that. You will see. We'll talk about these albums one by one. Now, because I find listing things ridiculous inherently, like this is art, this is the life's work of so many people that are now old, some of them are dead, some of them are still fighting for this kind of thing. I have immense gratitude and love for all the things on this list, and another 100 or 200 records that I didn't put on this list for different reasons, because we don't want to be here for 8 hours. The tier list, as you can see, says Immortal Masterpiece at the top, Visionaries below, Strong Showing below that, Worth Repeated Listens before that, underneath that, and Interesting Curiosity. None of them are bad records. There's no such thing as a bad Techno-Thrash record, really, because of what it takes to make such a thing back in 87 or 88. All of them deserve love. All of them are worth repeated listens, even the Interesting Curiosities. But some of them I'm making a tier list in the sense of like, we are expressing a little bit my personal taste. Like, there are things here in this list that I've listened to thousands, well, that's a bit too much, but hundreds of times, and there are things here that I've listened to 10 times. There's nothing without 10 listens here, because I find so much depth and value in all of these records and records like this that I don't have to push myself to listen to this many times. My hope is that you will find a few albums you don't know and you will put some effort in listening, understanding and listening to. That you will feel that common feeling, the commonality, he's right, that guy, he's right, that album rules, I also believe it rules, which is a nice bonding feeling across the ether of the internet. And of course, perhaps we'll go like, that record sucks, in my opinion, and why do you think it's good? That creates a little bit of even if it's a dissonance, it's a part of dialogue. Like, you might go later on, you know what, I might listen to this record again. He's right, it's not that bad. Worth saying, Techno-Thrash very quickly becomes outmoded in the eyes of the general metal public, because thrash generally becomes outmoded. The moment death metal comes, and then especially black metal, all this stuff is like, it looks ridiculous in the eyes of the teenagers listening to metal in 1995 and 1996. They might start with thrash, but very quickly they look at it like the training wheels of a young metal listener. I don't agree with that. I think that art is eternal, and that if you get into the mindset, the correct mindset for listening to something old, you might start feeling like, what if this was the only metal record ever made? And then you get all of its extremity, all of its trials and tribulations that went into it, all of its extreme accomplishments, you can still feel them. So, and I have no interest in fucking Nazis and their stupid fucking black metal. I have absolutely no interest in that style of music. And I think it's a shame that when we think about metal in the present day, so much of the mind space is taken over by that crap. So let's talk about a different scene, a more humanist scene, a scene that had something to say to the world beyond the ennui of Norwegian middle class, well-off children hating a ghost of Christianity and a ghost of leftism. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. Now, if we made a tier list of that stuff, it would be quite opposite in terms of like starting from immortal masterpiece and ending on interesting curiosity. But we're here to talk about Techno-Thrash. And now we get to the nitty-gritty. Now, if you are a fan of this stuff, you might understand a lot of my language. If you are a little bit more on the outside of the underground, a lot of terms might sound a little bit alien to you. I might not explain everything because I think there is a little bit of how to put it, there is a romance in listening to the inner discussions of an underground music scene, and you don't get everything, but you're like, perhaps I'll understand these words later, perhaps I'll do my own research. I'm gonna talk, usually I think that heavy metal is for everybody that needs it. So I try not to be insular, I try not to talk only to the people inside my community. But for the, because this is a tier list, it is inward looking by humorous intent. Like we're talking about something that I know well, and the people that care about a Techno-Thrash tier list also probably know well. So I'll be talking to my community, and take it as a challenge if you don't know that much about this stuff. What is the challenge? First of all, is to listen to the records. Like there's so much beauty. That's the whole point of this. So much beauty to unearth in this scene. So without any further ado, I wonder how long that was. 20 minutes. That's pretty good as an intro. Let's get into discussing these records. The first one that we have on the list is And Amen, kind of a nonsensical name. This is a German record. We could also, actually I think it would be good to not skimp on this, show the band's Germany 1992 intensely homoerotic picture. I love this picture. Guitar player, bass player, Ziggy Blasi on the keyboards and bass actually. The drummer from Psychotic Waltz here. Also Dan Rock from Psychotic Waltz on the lead guitar, I believe. I don't know if he played any rhythms, but he might have. And Uwe Ostern, I can't pronounce, I'm so sorry, but at least I show the name. An extremely talented guitar player coming from Death Row, which we will also discuss, the younger person here. They make a side band that only puts out this one album in 1992. Now, by 1992, not only is thrash done, Techno-Thrash is not even anymore a consideration. And this record, for me, it's a good stand-in for Megadeth in this list, because Megadeth are, much like Metallica, are bigger than thrash and bigger than the idea of Techno-Thrash. They are superstars compared to most of the bands on this list. However, Megadeth are instrumental in trying to outdo Metallica. They bring a lot of jazzy technicality. A couple of Megadeth records are absolutely sublime, no matter what we have to say about the stupid politics of Mr. Mustaine. And they're very worth listening to, like Rust in Peace. I don't have to tell you to listen to Rust in Peace. So, because Megadeth are not on this list, and Amen are taking the spot with their 1992 album, Your Last Horizon. Interesting spelling without the horizon. This album is quite sci-fi, even though it's outmoded by the time. If you listen to it as a piece of art today, it has this kind of cold atmosphere, like this Terminator, Future Shock kind of atmosphere. Like it has an existential bent to the lyrics. About how like every day in this world is an absurd tragedy, and I'm waiting for the Lord to take me, kind of. But also it has like very cool thrashy / power metal riffs. The vocal is kind of like a German Mustaine, I would say. The drumming is very, very good, but it's not like actually I don't think Norm Leggio generally is an overplayer, at least not in Psychotic. So it's kind of like the production is a little bit dated, but you can get over that just by cranking the shit up, right? That's the solution to bad productions back in the 80s and the 90s. The important thing is all the songs are good. The flow of the album is extremely good. The usage of keyboards, sound effect, all written on an Amiga, I believe. Both Ziggy Blasi and Dan Rock at the time, like, put things together on their Amiga, sequencing basically, sequencing sounds and with MIDI events. And you can get a little bit of that even in Psychotic Waltz's second album. I think like Into the Everflow starts with a lot of Amiga sounds, or has a side break with Amiga sounds, both probably. Now, I mentioned Psychotic a lot without saying anything else because I want to assume that the listener knows who Psychotic Waltz is. Psychotic Waltz are not a techno-thrash band. Psychotic Waltz are an early progressive metal pioneer. By 89, they are like taking the Fates Warning paradigm and twisting it and bending it and bringing a lot of extreme feeling to it. Taking some of the scatological elements and like the existential lyrics of John Arch and giving it their own spin on their first album, A Social Grace, which is a masterpiece, but that goes into a tier list about progressive metal. However, a lot of techno-thrash bands are, especially in Germany, are very influenced by Psychotic, because on the first album, especially a few songs like And the Devil Cried, the opener of are very twisty, turny. Even by today's standards, constant harmonization on the rhythm guitars, lots of tuplets, lots of weird stuff happening, creating a very dense, bewildering atmosphere, dark and bewildering atmosphere. So, End Amen have the same dark atmosphere, but not necessarily bewildering. They're easier to follow. I wouldn't call the End Amen album an immortal masterpiece, nor would I call it necessarily visionary, although there is an element of like, there is no other album especially that has this vibe. Perhaps the Sacrosanct? Yeah, like sad thrash, a little bit of a gothic feeling, a little bit of a, but it's not gothic in the romantic sense, even though the cover is completely ridiculous and has nothing to do with the vibe of the album, which probably is one of the reasons why this album is not that well known or wasn't picked up by a lot of people. It is Andreas Marschall. You can also enjoy, oh, hold on, not this one, enjoy looking at the album art a bit more close up, if I can find it, yeah. So you can see there's like a crusader with the cast shadow of the helmet on his face. Like, it's a cool record cover, but it has nothing to do with the sound of the album. However, yes, the Future Shock Terminator Blue Future, where we're endlessly trampled underfoot of the Terminator robot, is kind of here in the background. I wonder if this artwork was made for this album, or if the band just picked from what is available from the Marshall backlog. In any case, this looks like a power metal album because Andreas Marschall is very connected to the Blind Guardian kind of peak period. I would wish, even if the guy wasn't here and the rest of it was here, and perhaps the logo had a different the logo type, and it would do much better, I think. Anyway, art director concerns aside, it's true that there aren't a lot of albums that have this vibe, and I do rate the compositions and the feel, like nothing is wasted. Also, for a techno-thrash record, not a lot of flash, not a lot of overdone instrumentalities. It's songs, it's well-written songs. It's not thrash exactly. You can make the case that there is a little bit of power metal to this. I will put it at the very top of strong showing for now, and we'll see if it climbs a little bit up to Visionaries. Like, it could be at the end of Visionaries. The point is, this is a very good album. I recommend it to anybody that likes the German school of thrash. Not the creator, actually creator themselves had a little bit of a coroner moment. Not the raging thrash style, more like the speed power style of thrash, with very well written eclectic songs, very good lyrics, well painted pictures of futurity. They describe the world that we live in today, which is going to be a theme of our examination of techno-thrash. The prescient kind of like the foreshadowing, the understanding of how the world was going to be in the future, because in reality the concerns we had in the 80s have not been solved. If anything, we put them aside for a while, pretending like the historians sometimes say that the Second World War never ended, and it is a continuation of the First World War, like the tensions of the Second World War describe where we are at today, that we were going to have to fight fascists again, that it's going to be socialism or barbarism. The question hasn't changed. We are still confronted by the same impasse. So, that's End Amen in Germany. Now we will go to America for one of the most unique bands coming out of thrash, Anacrusis, Let's also look at the metal archives. Sorry for the clicky-clackety, but it's not a lot, right? United States, Missouri, 1984, very early in the beginning, raging thrash, like quite extreme, and then very quickly from the second album, we will be discussing Ken Nardi, the mastermind, but the whole band is worth listening to. A few people have passed through this band, and also they're split up again, but like they came back later on. At the time, not a lot of people knew or cared about this band, but they were ahead of their time. The first album, 88, kind of a little bit late for raging thrash, but that's okay, like it's still quite interesting, Frigid Bitch aside. Then, as you see, I clicked on those to get the covers today. 1990 we have Reason, which is the record we are discussing here. With the fragmented, there's a lot of, not a lot, like there's a few fragmented Faces covers in metal, Vanity Nemesis, and a few others that are like, there is a school of these that have something in common, because the fragmented cover is talking about like alienation, like it's not difficult to understand, like the coming together and falling apart of individualities. So, Reason is a and the other Anacrusis records we will discuss, a sublime example of what I would call today sad thrash or goth thrash. They bring that extremity of thrash metal, post-Metallica thrash metal, to the vulnerability and truth-telling of The Cure, for example, like or New Model Army, which they covered, like the desire to talk about something real. Not treat metal like an adult art form, which was a turnoff for a lot of people, as you might expect. It was a turnoff for raging thrashers, and by the point of 1990, death metal kids. This was a tall order, but to me, this spoke to me from the very first time I listened to it, and I believe, to be honest, like by the next album to this, they reached their peak. Although it's very hard to tell apart the Screams and Whispers and Manic Impressions, in my mind, they're both peak, absolute peak. This is visionary. There's nothing else like it, still to this day. Goth thrash or sad thrash has very few entries. It's not a genre, like I'm coming up with nonsense right now, like nobody's going to talk to you about goth thrash, even though we have a few bands. A little bit of this style comes from the opening of doors of Celtic Frost, who are best described as an art metal outfit, in my opinion, even though even art rock is kind of like a fake genre, if you want to think about it that way. Very quickly we'll talk about progressive rock, but Celtic Frost never had the chops to play progressive anything. However, they had the vision, and the vision opened doors. They opened doors for My Dying Bride, for Paradise Lost, for potentially, I think, for Anacrusis, although I wouldn't be certain if they had listened to Celtic Frost. But Coroner listened to Celtic Frost, and Anacrusis certainly listened to Coroner. So anyway, we'll get to all that. Massive recommend for that era of Anacrusis, those three albums, and massive recommend for anything Ken Nardi has done. Even though we have to expose our pose. We have to be honest about these things. I've listened to Dancing in the past, the Ken Nardi double album offering from, I don't know, 10 years ago, I think twice. It's difficult to take the whole thing in at once. And there's even more that I haven't even listened to yet. So I'm recommending them knowing that I don't think it's possible for Ken Nardi to do bad music. But not recommending them after having like lived with that music to the degree that I have lived with most of the things on this list. However, you probably will not go wrong exploring the realm of Anacrusis generally. From the American bands trying to do... Also, worth saying, I think Amen would understand what Techno-Thrash means, even though I don't know if they would describe... They might say we are just a thrash band or a metal band or a power metal band. I don't know what they would say. I don't know if Anacrusis, and generally the American scene beyond Watchtower, would describe themselves as Techno-Thrash ever at the time, which is important to know because a genre really becomes itself when it has ambassadors that speak of themselves proudly as belonging to that subgenre. Heavy metal doesn't really exist until Judas Priest come out and say we're metal gods. Proudly we're heavy metal. Black Sabbath potentially resented the idea that this is the early on in the name of the genre that they belong to. Certainly, Blackmore or Led Zeppelin had no interest in being self-describing as heavy metal. They were something bigger than this in their minds, and potentially truly, like Led Zeppelin are a bigger. Iron Maiden even, I don't know if you spoke to Harris, he might describe his band like a progressive rock band, if you know what I mean. So Anacrusis, interesting to say, outsiders even to Techno-Thrash or progressive metal. I don't know if they would describe themselves as any of those. They might say we are a strange thrash band, which is, they deserve to call themselves whatever they want to. Now we will go to Zurich, and we will go to the first Coroner album, one of the best metal bands ever, potentially like top 3 forward-thinking bands. Another band that, although listed as technical thrash metal, probably the Coroner three-headed thing, Marky Mark, Ron Royce, and the Baron, standing for the 3 members of that band. Now the drummer is no longer with the band, but for me, this the names Marky Marky, Tommy T. Barron, and Ron Royce are Coroner. I don't begrudge them that they came back with an amazing album and a new drummer, but like this band did a lot for metal, a lot that people didn't understand at the time. They bring class and a deeper understanding of aesthetic. Even from like the record covers, you can tell that something else is going on here. Perhaps the first one not so much, like, but by the second album, which is like a thrash masterpiece, you start getting the black bar with the stamp. We'll talk about 3 of these albums. We'll talk about Mental Vortex. We'll talk about No More Color. It's not an accident when you see something like 16 reviews, 91, 93. We can definitely say, coming out of Switzerland, yeah, from 1983. The second album we're talking about is from 88. This is great as well, but this is where they hit their stride, I believe. It's not an accident that, like, at the time this was an overlooked band, but today they have gotten their accolades, I believe. Now, Punishment for Decadence, I don't know, I'm not a native speaker. Is their second album. This is squarely in thrash, like they know they're a thrash band, and probably they understand that, like Techno-Thrash, technical thrash, they know that they are in conversation with bands like Watchtower. Even, I don't know if they ever describe themselves as that, but certainly the European press of the time described them as that. This is a hooky, extremely well-written thrash album, song after song, extremely tight. Besides a little bit of an echoey 88 production, lots of reverb, you can tell that this trio is bringing a cohesion that goes beyond just the music, like the themes and the lyrics and the vibe. There is a bit of a goth element as well to Coroner, the very dark band. Why I think the drummer had that understanding and interest in, like, darker music and darker aesthetics, generally speaking. Oh, we're not going to be talking about. Let's put the second Coroner album down the line, so we don't go twice in a row. That's also the reason why I believe, like, Coroner without the drummer, the original drummer, are not exactly the same band, because he wrote the lyrics, I believe, or some of the lyrics. He certainly was like the aesthetician of the band. I do believe so. So there's nothing really like Coroner, because they bring to kind of like an American style of thrash. This is not like Creator. Perhaps like the first album has like a little bit of a Celtic Frost influence on the vocals, like that artistic element of Celtic Frost certainly is here. We can do whatever we want with thrash. They are arch, they are beyond thrash. That's certainly real even on the second album. They also bring neoclassical elements on the guitar playing, sweep-picked arpeggios. This guitar player, I don't want to butcher the name, let's be careful with stuff like this. Tommy T. Barron, his real name I believe is Vetterli. This person is a real genius of the era. Now there's so many guitar players that play such amazing things, but they have these earlier kind of like geniuses to look at and to model some of their ideas on top of. This is not when the Coroner were doing this, there was nothing like it. And even today, like the juiciness of every lead, every solo section on every Coroner song, not just this, from the first album to the last album, we listen to the Baron on the guitar playing. Immense inspiration. The vocal, I love the vocal, some of my favorite thrash vocals, even though they're kind of echoey on this album, but they fixed that later. The rhythm section is beautiful because the bass player is fucking shredding, he's following every guitar feel, but the drumming is kind of minimal. It's more metronomic, it's not Watchtower-esque, it's not like a fusion drummer drunk, kind of like almost falling down the stairs, like it's not liquid like Watchtower, we'll get there. It's more, because he knew his limits, I think. He's not much like away from Voivod. He's not like concerned with being the best drummer in the universe. He's concerned with holding together the aesthetic vision of Coroner. And as Coroner progress from album to album, they pare down. They go from being a techno-thrash band to a post-thrash band, which is a subject we will be exploring as we go. This is at the lower end of visionary, because there's the neoclassical element bringing it to thrash, which we didn't really have as much of at the time, or potentially one of the strongest strong showings, but then the other Coroner albums are going to be higher rated. Let's put this on visionary, because I do believe the guitar playing on this style, and also the themes, the lyrics, they are pointing the way for something that only Coroner will later fulfill. Now we will go to Canada for the misspelled Oblivion. This is an 87 band, which means they're already kind of like a second generation early thrash, techno-thrash band. They listened to Coroner, they listened to Watchtower, they knew about the themes, futurism. There's also a very funny song in Cybervoid, like victimized by cruel megabytes. How true is that? But we're talking about the first album here from 1990, late showing for Techno-Thrash. From this day forward, I want to show you the record cover as well for this. I will never stop appreciating the Techno-Thrash pterodactyl here. This whole thing is like Voivodian in the best possible way. I don't know who made this cover, but they have my respect. This is the Canadian school, as we will discuss 4 slots later or 2 slots later. Let's put this a bit down the line as well. The second Oblivion album. The Canadian school is influenced by Voivod mostly, but I don't think, even though there is a certain Voivod element to this, and Voivod bring the abstraction. They take the progressive rock, like Van de Graaff generator style abstraction. They bring even more of that to thrash, more than Watchtower ever did, because Watchtower like Chick Corea, they like runs, they like the fluidity of the kind of the organic feeling of the band playing together. They like flash, they like confusing the audience with like their bewildering twists and turns. Voivod and therefore Oblivion, not so much. They use thrash to create kind of like abstract spaces in the brain that you have time to spend in them before they change. This album is not an album that changes all the time. It is, however, a thrash album. How to put it? Like, this is 100% a thrash album. That every part is eclectic. Like this riff, this section of the song is eclectic. When we go to the bridge, there's always something eclectic about that bridge. Nothing is normal, without too much flash. The interesting thing about Oblivion in terms of like technicality is that they are an extremely tight band. The drummer suffers a little bit on this first album by echoey 80s production and a little bit of a more like a simplified playing. Sometimes he plays a little bit too much in not the right way, like he hasn't found the best solution for the part. But even that is charming in its own way. Like, as I said, I have immense love for all these albums. I'm not here to tell you that something is bad. I'm just here to tell you how, when you listen to them, you might get a desire, oh, I love this, but what if that little element was a little bit more developed? And Oblivion will develop that. So this is a strong showing, but a very unique one, because in the beginning when you listen to this album, you might be a little bit, oh, there's kind of a samey quality to these songs, like one runs into the other, and this is a challenge you sometimes will have to face with Techno-Thrash. Repeated listens will show the unique quirkiness of every single part of this album. It also becomes quite catchy in the brain when you listen to it a lot, and it's kind of fun. This is a fun album, in my opinion. If you like thrash, like the more cerebral type of thrash, you can't go wrong with this. Also, if you want to learn to play guitar, this is a good kind of like after Master of Puppets or something. This is a good kind of next challenge. Not that I have crossed even Master of Puppets is hard for me, but like once in a while you go like, I want to figure this one riff out, and when you do, you will be rewarded by the ingenuity, the quiet ingenuity inside from this day forward. I will put Oblivion in the strong showing. I do enjoy Endamen a little bit more than this album, so. Also, this goes like this. No. We'll fight the internal rankings afterwards. All this talk about Watchtower, and now we'll talk about the second Watchtower offering from 1989. This is a Austin, Texas band. I do believe. Let me not say the wrong thing. Austin, Texas, 82. This is insane, yeah. Very early formation of this band, and they were playing their style by 1984. It took them a while to put out this album. They recorded it twice. We'll talk about it. It took them a while to make this album. In this era, the lineup is different. We have Tekio on the vocals, second vocalist, not Jason McMaster. Jarzombek, Ron Jarzombek on the guitars, a guitar hero that is his reputation has eclipsed Watchtower by a large degree. Like mostly people find Watchtower by being into Jarzombek and going backwards and saying, oh, he had a band before that. But this is not, he's not a foundational member of this band, and even the compositions of this album are written by the prior guitar player, most of them. We'll talk about it. Doug Keyser on the bass, an amazing monster bassist, and of course Kola Luka on the drums, and a monster drummer, one of the most unique drummers. This rhythm section is quite a thing. This whole band is like, how to put it, this album is not a Techno-Thrash album. By 1989, there is a little bit of an element of thrash, but this is a progressive metal album. It's actually one of the original progressive metal albums. Besides Queensryche, kind of like starting the theme of sci-fi Iron Maiden, earlier than anybody else. And then Fate's Warning, bringing the mystical parables for life style of John Art's, also an Iron Maiden-esque style, to proto-progressive metal. Then the band that kind of like from the trifecta, of course there's Psychotic Waltz, but they are influenced by Fate's Warning and Watchtower. So already you can say that like you can rebuild progressive metal with Queensryche, Fate's Warning and Watchtower, and that has been the historical account of this kind of music. They bring the futurist element in a much deeper relief. And this album, Control and Resistance, which came out in 1989, at the end of 89, a bit late, sadly, but they had difficulties with the lineup. As I said, the original guitar player, a true visionary, Billy White, writes the songs here, 1, 2, 4, 5, even lyrics for some of the songs, and then he had to leave. He joins Dokken. Anyway, this album goes there. This is a challenge to all. The lyrical material is like Rush in the sense that like it has a political outlook, it has an existential outlook, it has something to say to any developing youth that feels on the outs with society. It has something to say to anybody struggling to understand the world in 1989 or in 2026. All the same, the songs are sublime. Every song. Here's the thing about Watchtower. Once you get it's bewildering, right? It's probably still one of the most bewildering records anybody can listen to that's adjacent to heavy metal. Once you get the drift, once you really internalize the songs, this is just hook after hook after hook. My mind was changed as a 13-year-old when I picked this up, and I listened to this so much that these songs became, to my understanding, pop songs. I anticipate every change, I anticipate every lyric, I sing along with this crazy stuff. It is a top 10, not just thrash album or techno-thrash or progressive metal or metal album, it is a top 10 piece of art for this listener. it goes in the top of the of the list, and it's one of those things that, like, if you want to understand the history of heavy metal, and the challenge is set forth to everybody that plays and listens to this music, the challenges that have rarely been answered, competently answered, you have to listen to this record. The aesthetic is strong. This is a Noise Records masterpiece. Let me look at the dog, the Watchtower dog up close. This chain on the back side of the CD, or the vinyl, goes to the dog that is tied up, a white dog. We see here the the cover of the first album with a nuclear paranoia sign of energetic disassembly. The noise, like, even by looking at this, is not the typical metal album at this point. The font type, what is control and resistance? It's about dialectics. It's about the forces in the world that push and pull, and how they're trying to explain why we can't have nice things. When you go like, why is the world like this? Can't we all just get along? Can't we all just sit down and have a conversation about stuff? No, because there's forces. There's forces at play. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. My life has been enriched by this album, and your life will be enriched by this album if you take it seriously, and also if you have fun with it. It's extremely fun. The guitar playing is absolutely maddening. Like, there's a lot of chromatic playing. There's some Holdsworth, some Di Meola. There's like fusion influences. But also it's important to remember, like, we'll talk about this more on the first album, which is absolutely seminal. This is kind of a punk rock outfit in spirit, like they mean to upset metalheads, which I love about Watchtower. Like, they mean for you to have an adversarial relationship with this music, because the Hegelian dialectic is strong. I've said enough. There's nothing more to say. Immortal masterpiece. 11 out of 10. 12 out of 10. Watchtower rule. Who else rules? Voivod rule. Now we go to... Oh man, this kind of music is so good. This makes me happy to think about it. Alright. Voivod. What the fuck does Voivod mean? Now, there's an album called Killing Technology! This band is from Quebec. Jean-Pierre, I'm not sorry for butchering things. Canada, formed in 1981. A punk rock band that plays Techno-Thrash. They don't care. Like, Voivod is bigger than you and bigger than me, bigger than metal. Voivod is a universe in themselves, and especially because of this little fella here, this huge fella called Away. They had the nicknames. Let us venerate and worship at the altar of Away, the altar of Snake, the altar of Blackie on the Hoover bass, and of course, rest in peace, Piggy, a true visionary of music, not just guitar, bringing his love of progressive rock and weird chords, and like, what if we played like King Crimson, but also what if we played like punk rock? Like, when they start like War and Pain or Roar, this is like extremely noisy, Venom-esque, Slayer-esque, full brutal, the most brutal kind of like post-apocalyptic warrior thrash albums. Not even thrash, like they're... every era of Voivod is a couple of albums. This and this go together. This and this go together. This and this kind of go together. Certainly this and this go together. Negatron and Phobos. They invent a genre every 2-3 years. Who else has done this? Who else has done this good? Let's look at like the consensus a little bit. I don't agree, but then we start. Who else has a run like this? No, Negatron rules. No, Phobos rules, like add 10 points to everything. Add 10 points to everything. This is, there's people that don't listen to metal. They think it's cheap and idiotic. They listen to other things, but they listen to Voivod. Also, look at like this, this logo, man. Look at this cover. I will never get over this. Way, the drummer and lyricist for this band, also did the art. Isn't that the coolest thing? He smoked a lot of weed and imagined the universe of this post-apocalyptic warrior traversing the realms of existence, going from planet to planet. The lyrics are English as a second language in the most perfect way ever. Now, This is the crossover point from rowdy, venom-esque, super extreme, noisy thrash into something else. We can call it techno-thrash only in historical terms. I'm certain they listened to the opposition of the era, right? But the opposition of the era was like just Watchtower, like this is so early. What year are we talking about for killing technology? No, actually, 87. Things have happened by 87. A few things, a coroner has happened by 87. So I'm sure they're aware. They bring some technicality, but it's not technicality of the show-off style. It's more like modern harmony. Power trio, with a guitar player that often goes into his own journey without the underpinnings of like a very chunky Ride the Lightning style guitar tone behind him. He doesn't double track when he goes off in his own way. So you get kind of the, I don't want to get too technical because I don't think even Voivod would want to talk about their own stuff in that way. But you listen kind of the upper extensions of chords unmoored by the second rhythm guitar. So you've got like this leaf blower distorted bass at the bottom, or sometimes not even at the bottom, but like some sort of inverted chord that sounds like grating, and the sound picture is empty. And in the beginning you might listen to Voivod and be like, this is terrible. This is like ugly and empty and badly produced, and the songs just change out of nowhere and they make no sense. And what are the lyrics about? Keep listening, because by the 10th listen you might be like, oh, this is my favorite band ever. I think this is the most common experience from anything in this list. This is the experience of most people that get into Voivod. You really have to work at it. I'm certain there are people that like they listen to Nothing Face and immediately go like, oh, this is absolutely visionary, brilliant, anything you want to say. And this is of course visionary, even by this point, and more visionary than anything, because here's the kicker with Voivod. Techno-Thrash came and went, but Voivodian bands for whom things start and end with like a big Voivod influence remain. Like the Vedbuens and the guy that now has Virus famously said that like, I wanted to combine Talking Heads and Voivod because these are my favorite bands. So like the influence of Voivod eclipses almost everything on the sides, unless you want to talk about like Watchtower giving birth as Techno-Thrash dies or gets outmoded, they give birth to progressive metal. Yeah, progressive metal on the whole is bigger than Voivod, but quirky metal, weird metal, outer limits metal, avant-garde metal, abstract naive metal, all those things have a lot forgetting my English. They owe a lot to Voivod. This is not my favorite Voivod album, but you know how things go with great metal. Some weeks it's my favorite album. You can't go wrong by listening to Killing Technology. This is a great album. Oh my god. I wonder if there's going to be anything here that's just there is a few things that is going to be an interesting curiosity. Visionary work. Even if you don't like Techno-Thrash, listen to Voivod. If you listen to other things, and you're gonna, you know what? I'm not into like people showing off, or this is punk rock. Like the ethos is punk rock, but they go so far. They go to the outer reaches of the universe with their sound. Yeah, Voivod rule. Now Germany, Flaming Anger. Everybody deserves their time in the sun. 84, early point of kind of coming together, but they start like a heavy metal band, I think. Love this picture. Danzig, always important to look at like the shirts. Danzig shirt, Motorhead shirt, classic Motorhead shirt. I think this is Dr. Doom. Look, very techno-thrash picture on the wreckage. But they have a few very good demos. I think like I have this one, both of them, and you can see that they got their due eventually. It's going to be Bayern, of course. And this is a Techno-Thrash fiend. He knows what he's talking about, even though I don't agree with everything, but like sometimes he's too enthusiastic about things that I think go into interesting curiosity. But then again, this is it's a delicacy. Techno-Thrash is a delicacy. You don't get a lot of it. This is a late record. They finally managed to put out an album. 97 is very, very late. It's a dead genre. But this is interesting because this is an outfit. Let's give credit to the people. You see a lot of who in here was like the person that stuck with it forever. Probably, I don't know. Let's look. You know, the way to find out about stuff like this is who's on the first demo. Ha! Great. Who's on the second demo? Great demo, this one. 2 guitar players. Only on this. Interesting. So they change. Perhaps they change masterminds. Worth looking at later. But anyway, this band is a second generation Techno-Thrash band. Like, they would call themselves Techno-Thrash. They listened to Siege's Even and Watchtower and said, we want to do that. Interestingly, they're a little bit of a power metal band as well by this point. Biosphere 2, lovely record cover, classic Techno-Thrash Anxieties. We have the Biosphere 1, we will have a Biosphere 2. This is a little bit what this is about. Very catchy, well-written songs, not visionary by this point, but you have to give it up for 1997. We're gonna be playing this style. We don't care. I will put this on worth repeated listens because that's what I've done with it. I think I've listened to it more than 10 times, but it's not every day that's a day for Flaming Anger. Now we will go to, I think, Switzerland again, right? We will go to Calhoun Conqueror. Strange name. Yes, from the birthplace of Coroner. Again, lovely picture. What do we have here? I should know what this is, but I don't. This is difficult to make out, and of course the leather vest speaks for itself. Support and veneration for Peter Haas, for Mr. Gerling. Oh, brothers in the band. I love that when that happens. I didn't know that. The EP is awesome as well, 87, and by the kind of like the inflection point of Techno-Thrash, we have Lost in Myself. Interesting because this is a drum machine band, proudly drum machine band. It's part of their sound actually. This is crossing over to sad thrash again, or gothic thrash, or psycho thrash. Like kind of, it's not super technical. That's not what they're about. Every song is good. Every song has an anxious and kind of oblique. It's difficult to tell sometimes what they're about, but you feel it. Every song is good. This album is worth listening to in totality every time. Like, I've never listened to like 3 songs from this album. The record cover is tilting at windmills, or is it tied to a cross? No, the cross doesn't have an extra spoke there. Like, imagine going to the record store and looking at this as I did and be like, I don't even care what this kind of music this band is. We'll pick it up and listen to it because it takes some guts to put something like this out with this on the cover. This is eclectic. And therefore, even though it's 89, because it sounds like nothing else, absolutely on the low tier of visionary. Beautiful guitar playing, and the vocal style brings that kind of teenager vulnerability to this kind of music, which, see, a lot of metal is very macho, and thrash is very macho. Metal militia! We're gonna bring the message to you. Not talking even about like Slayer or something like that. But Calhoun Conqueror is not macho. They have taken the elements of thrash to a distillation of energy. The energy is there, but the pelvic thrust is no longer there. It's kind of like music to listen alone in a dark room. And I love that about Techno-Thrash. And this is also different from progressive metal to come. Progressive metal usually starts looking outwards again, has a message for the world, hopes for a better future even, hopes that intellect will survive and the failing instincts of the past, much like a Soviet doctrine about Marxism being a science. We will leave behind the animalistic man, and together we will go beyond competition and reach to the stars. Those kind of ideas before the fall of the Soviet Union. Not to say that Calhoun Conqueror are Marxists or anything, but it was in the water at the time. Like, people going, what if we did this with metal? This will upset some purists. Fuck 'em. Who cares? I have emotions inside, and I'm gonna convey them with my drum machine and my razor sharp riffs, but not an ounce of stupid machismo. Calhoun Conquer are a very good band to keep in mind for this kind of challenge fulfilled. No, even in the list, there's gonna be some bands that are like wanna beat you up, but actually not that many, to be honest. Yeah, they deserve their place low on the visionary totem pole. If only they had done more, I'm certain like a more complete picture of where they wanted to end up. I think they would have ended up in the, it is already like more than techno-thrash, we would call this post-thrash, taking thrash technique and going somewhere antithetical to thrash with it. I think they would have gone more in this kind of like industrialized category of like the New Gods or Trepon Empal, something like that. Back to Germany for one of the kind of like slowly getting its accolades as one of the techno-thrash albums. We will we will talk about Death Row and their album Deception Ignored. Another classic, We Are Junk, The World is Junk, Coming Out of the Junk. I love this picture, I love this band. However, they start as an extremely raging German style speed thrash band, like this is 86, like Create or something, or like Protector, something like that. I had this I hate this record cover, I hate this guy for some reason, but it's kind of cool in the same way. I listened to these a lot as well, but then by 89, see, kind of something about 89, right? Deception Ignored comes out. The record cover is quite unique because it's obviously one picture with a lot of blind people. Let's look at it here instead. Shredded and kind of, you see, like you would take every other line and put it down. So you can kind of see the picture, but at the same time you're alienated from the picture. Look at these guys, like look at the Fat Cats. So they're blind, we're blind, we're struggling to see, and we're ignoring the deception, right? Kind of a strong aesthetic. The old school logo, not so much. But you know, these are the tensions, the Hegelian tensions of thrash, techno-thrash especially. This is what happened here. Also worth always venerate. People gave their lives to make shit like this. Complete lineup. Oh, hold on. What we want to do is look at who Death Row were on the whole. This is what we do. When we go into Metal Archives, we do a little bit of historical research. So they lost a guitar player by 88. They put another album after this, Life Beyond, I think it's called, which is also techno-thrash, yeah. Not as good, and I think kind of like the internet agrees. Not bad though, but what happened here was there was an initial lineup that wanted to play the Raging Steel kind of style, and then they inherit this guitar player who is also in, there's a band I haven't listened to, who enters the band by 88 and only lasts two tours of duty here. Interesting. Then does Amen. He is at odds with the band. I've read some interviews where the remaining members of Death Row, looking back at their band, say kind of the technical style wasn't really what Death Row was, and so that tension is in this album a little bit, robbing it of its longevity on some respect. The drumming is a little bit ramshackle for the intricacies of the guitar style. This is a riff fest, and it's also beyond the riff fest. Lyrically, we are, even with plain speak, like these are German teenagers or young adults. It's not necessary that they have read Marx and Hegel and stuff like that. They are describing the world that they live in, and in the tensions of that world you can see the humanist concern, you can see the anti-capitalist concern, you can see certainly the anti-consumerist concern, which was a general theme of thrash, but it reaches its apex in techno-thrash because the abstract complexities of the music are married to the abstract complexities of the themes. Techno-thrash is not a pretentious style of music, it is an ambitious style of music. You can make the case that a lot of progressive metal pretends to be smarter than it is. If you listen to this Death Row album, you will not find people pretending to be smarter than they are or playing something smarter than they can play. Even though the band might object to a certain degree, they might be trying and failing, but the attempt is earnest, and that gives this kind of music longevity because the challenge in it remains. It tells you, as a metal musician, perhaps you are listening to this, Have you tried to really tell the truth about your life with your heavy metal riffs? Have you married the complex picture of your life to the complexities of your music? Death Row did. Every song is cool. The lyrics hit, especially the song Machinery is kind of like the Techno-Thrash song, if you want to look at it that way. If there's like an anthem, kind of like, we are trapped in the cogs of a great machinery, and they say that lyric, and then the music does this grotesque, abstract stop-start. They take the riff that they were playing and they turn it into like this, they highlight what it feels to be crushed by these wheels. And for that reason, they are on the low side of visionary because the style has been done before. The guitar player that enters this band obviously has listened to things that we'll be talking about here on the top tier. But because it really takes one, if you can encapsulate the ethos of a micro genre with one song, it's not just a strong showing. And it is in the top 10 albums of Techno-Thrash for me, more on the thrash side than the technical side, certainly, but the humanist spirit is there. The cry of the thinking being at the end of the world is there. It is more resonant today than it was in '89. How are we doing? We're doing an hour. It's gonna be 3 hours. Who gives a shit? Let's go. Let me drink what's left of my white monster. Jesus Christ. We are all fallen beings, my friend, whoever you are listening to this. You know it and I know it. But yet we have to live today. We're going to America now, to a band called Realm. A Christian band, if you would believe it, because Americans in thrash, in metal generally, always had a Christian contingent because they have a fucking... nothing to... I don't have anything to... I'm not splitting hairs with God. Just like the Christian summer camp vibe is a little bit off-putting to me. If you listen to something like Killers of the Unborn by that kind of Queensryche band, Sacred Cross, something like that. There's a lot of grotesque preaching conservative white metal, but Realm are not a grotesque preaching band. They are, however, from Milwaukee, formed in '85. Yes, I agree, they are kind of like a speed, power, thrashy band. They go really fast. The voice is extremely high. Let's venerate. Oh, a few people have passed through this band. I suppose, yeah, we're talking, we have some people in the band from the beginning. Oh, Greek expat, he wasn't quite very interesting. There's a Last Crack connection, very interesting. Last Crack are not a techno-thrash band, but they are a progressive metal band of an extremely high quality, and the vocalist then did White Fear Chain, one album, interesting. Beatallica. They cover a Beatles song, so I suppose that's why. They cover it very well. 2 albums, 88, 90, like peak techno-thrash years. You can read about them more here. This is the first album. I love it. I think it's very good. At the time, I remember like reviews being like, this style has been done, what's the point of it? Because we're in the starting with the more extreme metal types. But today, I think both of the Realm albums have aged better than you would expect because of the... Oh, Toxic is not in here. They're not... Yeah, let's... even though they're not in the list, imagine that Toxic goes a little bit above Realm. Like, not visionary, but extremely high, strong showing. Where we will also put this album, and potentially the second Realm album. The songwriting is solid. The energy is off the charts. So techno-thrash can sometimes get lost inside of itself. So the super high energy albums are worth pointing at. For a little bit of a Christian band, I don't know how extremely important the message was to them. Also, like Believer, perhaps Believer were more, or Tourniquet. Should probably also be in this list, but let's say we are capturing that side of American techno-thrash but with the Realm entries. I think, yeah, I think Under Oblivion in my opinion. Now again, I think we go, is this Denmark? See, it's a good expose your pose exercise for me as well. There's a few bands called Paralysis, but we're talking about the Arctic Sleep Paralysis, who are from the Netherlands. Now, this is a band that starts like a Techno-Thrash band. This is a very fast album with interesting lyrics. The ridiculous cover, I love the Ice Cube cover. Super sick thrash logo type. Intifada, they start with Intifada, which like sometimes people are smarter than we give them credit for. They are definitely on the Metallica side of thrash, but because this is super fast and kind of intricate, they kind of reach over to Techno-Thrash. Also, let's not forget that like even Metallica, counter-inspired by a band like Watchtower, did their attempt at kind of a Techno-Thrash album, the most famous Techno-Thrash album, which is And Justice for All. But because again Metallica are bigger than metal and bigger than thrash especially, much like Megadeth, I'm not gonna put them on the list. If you wanted to know, of course, And Justice for All, because it's 87 as well, goes into visionary albums. However, there are problems with And Justice for All that make it hard for me to say that it's an immortal masterpiece. Some songs are boring and overlong, but definitely a visionary album. Anyway, Paralysis are of this sort, and after the EP, they become more of like a thrashy progressive metal band. Like the technical element is not that important, but I do love Visions, that album as well. I love the song Visions that curiously is on the next album. I have a soft spot for Paralysis generally. However, this album probably goes on the low tier of strong showing or high on the worth repeated listens. Second Realm album, same style. Beatles cover I think is in here. Very interesting lyrics. Kain always comes to mind. Immense amount of energy again. I will say, hard to say which one. These go together. Like they don't drop in power or ingenuity in the song. So we'll put them together. Now back to Anacrusis, which I have already spoken of. You will see here that the strong 1, 2, 3 punch album. Again with the, we'll talk about this album as well, with the fragmented. They said like we didn't, excuse me, we didn't capture exactly what we're trying to do with the first record cover. I'm sure this album sold terribly. This is the third album. Now here's the thing with this album. Both this and the album before it are absolute masterpieces. This album is the only album where Anacrusis, with a uniquely very low-tuned industrial metal sound, finally get a good production. However, the songs are so good, the meanings are amazing, this is an immortal masterpiece. But curiously, the middle album, the one before it, which here, is, in my opinion, just a smidge better, even though the sound is bad. Kind of not bad, like an acquired taste. However, this is also going to go in the immortal masterpiece category, so you know what you're dealing with. There is no song by Anacrusis that doesn't have something real to say, and count in your mind how many metal bands you can say that for, and how many metal bands you can say that for that did it more than one album. Every song is well written, every song means something, songs that can make you cry, and songs that will give you steel in your blood to survive this ruined world. The only Anacrusis album with kind of an interesting cover as well. Now, back to Voivod. Killing Technology, then we have Hatros. They mentioned Hatros, which is somewhere. Is it in here? Or did I? Yeah, there we go. And then we have Nothing Face. Should we talk about this before we talk? Nah, it's okay. We said that we'll do it achronically. Something very cool about this. I'm a pixel artist by trade. This record cover is a mixed media record cover. It's done on Deluxe Paint on the Atari ST or the Amiga, I don't know where. Like it's done, you can Away made this with pixels, but also I think there's an element of like perhaps like watercolor on top, like perhaps he printed it and kind of washed a few things. Inside every song has a little Deluxe Paint picture as well. So it combines two of my loves of my life, which is great metal. They changed their logo here as well, and the pixel art. Look at this vibe. Like you see, Techno-Thrash more than progressive metal is about inner conflicts. It's about identity. It's about the existence in the modern world. It's about screaming without a mouth. It's about feeling the tensions of the end of the world while still have something vital that you need to do. You have to go fast. Perhaps that's why Voivod changed so much and they went so hard, so fast, because there wasn't enough time left. Dark as well, gothy in a certain sense, but also like technological. The dialectics are strong with this one. This is a masterpiece. This is a top 10 metal album or album as well. It goes here. For some people it would go beyond, because why? Why could you say that this is here? Because this is a band without at this point yet internal tensions. They hadn't changed their lineup. It was the same people still pursuing vision after vision after vision, not just like somebody pushing them to do something that the rest of the band didn't want to do. Whereas you could say that like one of the brains of Watchtower had left by this point, and this is them achieving their most abstract and at the same time the most catchy, and the sound changed. Like a lot of the thrashiness has left, but it has been replaced with musicality and mysteriousness. This is a very mysterious album. You're going to have a lot of questions, and because the album will never give you answers, the oblique lyrics continue. Like if you read the lyrics, you're like, what the fuck is this song about? It is about something though. You're going to have to think like an alien that doesn't know English, trying to understand English, like the game Captain Blood, perhaps, of the Atari ST as well. Not an accident, a French game. Because Voivod are Canadian, but they are French-speaking Canadians. Their English wasn't or remains not that good, which is fine. It's actually better. English is overrated. Metal is forever. Anyway, this album is difficult to discern what the meanings are, but it's all the more to the artistry of the album. Another album that you're going to have to... That was my experience. I wrestled with this album for 5 years after I bought it. I still remember vividly taking the train in downtown Athens, listening to the train sounds intermixed with Nothing Face and going, oh, I get it. Not only do I get it, like it happened like that. Now this is crucial to me. I can never live without this anymore. Like there will be times, and so it became, where I go, I need to listen to Nothing Face. Nothing else will do. Only Nothing Face will do. If I don't have this record, my life would be lesser. So yeah, the reason why we don't do this necessarily, at least today, tomorrow I might change my mind, is because there is so much beauty in this album that you can listen to it 1,000 times and always be inspired. Whereas after many listens, I can't say I have internalized this album. When I listen to it, I expect every little thing like here, but this always... It goes above and beyond in my mind. It inspires that like I have to do better in all of my art. I have to try more. Whereas this is more like music for weirdos. I am a weirdo. We feel love. I feel love for it. It feels love for me. But it's a more settled like relationship. Whereas this, I will never reach it, and nobody will ever reach it. So leave it there. But it's very close race. Now we will go. A couple of. No, is this Polish? We'll go to Australia in any case. Taramis, Edge of the Imagination. Taramis, the Queen of Thieves from the Conan movies. Or perhaps Conan stories. I'm not that well versed. Perhaps Taramis also appears in the Howard stories. Coolest logo, older logo. Australian Techno-Thrash showing. We have, I think, a couple in this list. They start... Prowler, so there was a prior band. They start after Thrash. And this album, I need to listen to it more because I'm certain it's good, but when I listened to it early on, I didn't love it. White Pants, my friend, respect. The second album, though, with this absolutely ridiculous cover that I love. This is, we have a joke with my friends that we talk about metal. You can spot a progressive, look at this, you can spot a progressive metal album covers with like chessboards, and Bryce 3D mountains and gambling elements or like melted clocks, like surreal nonsense. This is like progressive metal record cover for sure. But yeah, this is kind of like power metalish, speed metalish, techno-thrashy. All in all, metal from Melbourne? What is this? I have to... Oh, not a lot of stuff. Okay. Yeah, I'll check this out later. This is a progressive metal album in essence, but it has a lot of like the thrashy element. Extremely active bass playing. The band is active, that's amazing. Extremely active bass playing by Danny Comor. Sorry. Very high vocals by Mr. Southby. Also, they come from the prior band, I see. 2 bass players? What are we doing? I think this is the original. 86. What's going on? Well, this is a question for a different time. This is a bass heavy album in any case, so worth. What's going on with the lineup here? Only 1 bass player, yeah. Oh my! Oh, progressive metal in essence. Pipes going into my brain. This is a pipe as well. Very cool. Kind of like a outer limits kind of band. I love them. I think there was like a Voivod-esque element to this. Very well written songs. There isn't a bad song on this album. Always kind of like inspiring you to imagine and dream. This is kind of like B tier in the essence of like it didn't have a lot of impact, but I remember it and I put it on the list. I think this is not so visionary, but definitely on the high end of strong showing. And if the band is back together and they want to continue on like push it harder, go hard, go further, find your absolutely unique voice that you want to go for. I wouldn't be surprised if even to this late day Taramis can knock it out of the park and give us like a visionary album. But you know, I put it on the list and immediately in my mind, much like Vaudeville, another Australian progressive metal outfit, there's songs ringing in my head. There's 3 different songs on this album that immediately ring in my head, which means they done good. Now I think this is a Polish Astaroth band. There's so many Astaroth bands, but only one. How do you write? Is it like this? No. Oh my god. I'll figure it out. There's another extra H. Come on. Like this, I think. Oh my god. Ash. Is it like this? No! Not this one. Isn't that how it's written? Yeah, there we go. Perhaps this contributed to this band not being big. From Poland. This is so fast. This cover is so Polish metal. Mrs. Metal Mind, Metal Master. This is so Polish metal of the time. I think this is, yeah, it's a bit late. I like this band a lot, and I even like them on this a lot. What is it with the one record cover? The band continues on, but I haven't listened to the newer stuff. Is it this? They at some point have a female guitar player as well, / vocalist. This is an unsung band. Not a lot of people care or know about this, but because I have listened to it a few times trying to ingest, like to really grok, why are they so fast and yet at the same time their thrash is kind of like sad and the lyrics are kind of like English as a second language but meaningful. I think this is our first interesting curiosity, but don't take that to mean that it's bad. And you know, that's the beautiful thing about these records. If I listen to it 10 more times, it might climb, because it takes a long time for abstract music to reveal its beauty to you. However, I wanted to include something from Poland, and because Wolf Spider, I will admit, I haven't put in the listens to really understand that style. However, Poland did believe in Techno-Thrash. We have Dragon as well on the more death thrash side, but extremely technical at one point. We have a few bands that did believe that the future of metal is going to be thinking man's metal. So I wanted to have like a little bit of Polish representation here. So let's put this for interesting curiosity, but also I'm withholding judgment that it might climb if I really get it. If I really get it. Then again, much like Berserker, we'll talk about it, the super fast kind of Techno-Thrash might, like the brain shock, the body shock of that kind of music, like also playing super fast and being abstract and complex, might be the point of it. It might not reveal more than that down the line. No, I'm not sure. Here we have the second Megaze album from Germany, the Human Errors, and well, let's look at them. 2 albums, Inner War, this is the second one from 1999, very late, and even the first one from 1991 is after the show, the party, right? The sad party of Techno-Thrash. Female fronted, few metal bands generally are female fronted and very few in thrash. However, we do have Holy Moses in Germany as well, which they do step do Holy Moses, and they get a little technical, but I'm not that very well versed. There's also, what's the band that did Woods of the Necrophiliac? Living Death, not female fronted, but like there are a few other German bands kind of like trying to do a similar sound of like going from thrash to techno-thrash in short order. However, Megaze come out, I haven't listened to The Sign of the Ape. I haven't listened to the Megaze demos, perhaps I should, but even just looking at this, something tells me they're not going to be a regular thrash band from the go. Let me look at the second. This is the news. Okay, I have to listen to the Megaze demos. In any case, by the album, by 1991, this is a second generation techno-thrash band. They're not a progressive metal band, they are a techno-thrash band. They venerate, as we will venerate the lineup. Let's look at the names. I don't think they had a lot of changes, yeah. Hold on, we're not doing it right. We have to go to the band, members, complete lineup. Oh, I was completely wrong. Lots of changes. It's a Spinal Tap situation with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drummers. 1, 2 guitarists, and then, wow, this band changed a little bit. Are they active? That wouldn't be, no, split up. So, also worth looking at the second outing here. Zandrill, yeah. This is a fully formed techno-thrash band. This was so out of style when they came out, but I'm very glad to see, gratifying to see that the band has received, even if it's just Bayern. Let's see who the second person is in here. Another fiend. Even if it's just 2 people, you know, you have to respect it. We have the archive, and let's give bands their dues. This is a very good band with on their mind reality, telling you something real. The songs are good. Sometimes the solos are very eclectic. I love both of these albums, and it's so untrendy even then and today. This is like the opposite of the trends in metal. They come from kind of like similarly from Germany. We have like the progressive metal band. What are they called? Like the best of the B tier in a certain sense. They came back with the album Moon. Come on, what are they called? Oh, it's gonna torment me now. Anyway, to say were some German outfits that listened to like Fate's Warning or Watchtower, and they knew they couldn't do as much, but they were so earnest in their approach that they own a piece of eternity. And Megaze are certainly one of those bands. I don't think they're necessarily visionary, and they would agree, I think, but definitely strong showing, kind of around here. And I think even the first album might even be a little bit better. We'll talk about it. Now we'll go to Romania, I believe, but it's worth always. that was great. That there is a band, Anton. That's a weird. How the hell did I write Romania in this and get a band? Okay, it's autocomplete doing something. Talking about Psycho Symphony. By the name, you can tell that they were influenced by Psychotic Waltz. They come from Romania. I can't pronounce these things. Let's give the credit due for the one lineup of this band. Extremely unique band, but even though there is a strong psychotic element in the sound, they are a unique band because they listened to that and they said, oh, not only are we going to see, they put it as progressive thrash. I want to say, I don't think Psycho Symphony have that much to do at this point with techno thrash, even though the sound design is such. I think they have more to do in a certain sense with bands like Garden Wall from Italy, who perhaps on their first album you can say there is a strong Watchtower lean, but they are a progressive rock band that utilizes the techniques of techno thrash as they need. Like they go in the realm of thrash and metal of their day, but they swim out of it and more in the broader category of progressive rock, which is also a very unique and interesting thing, which is to say you should listen to Garden Wall, and you should definitely listen to this album because it falls squarely in the category of gothic, sad boy thrash. The sound is kind of empty, sparse. It has a sparse sound, very busy drumming, two guitar players doing independent things, and the poetry, even if it's English as a second language, but in its essence, it is affecting and true. Some real emotions are attempted to be communicated, and there is no trend, there is no machismo, there's no attempt even to try to dazzle you, because by the point that this album came out, sorry, let's make sure, very late. Extremely technical things had happened in metal, but again, I got you, bro. Again, the band gets its due because the technicalities, once again, that's why, although it's progressive metal, it doesn't have the afflictions of modern prog. It is as technical as it needs to be to convey the complex colors, the mixed colors of emotions that the lyrics and the vocal speaks about. This is a visionary work. Like here. Even late to the game, there's nothing else that sounds like Psycho Symphony. I wish they did more, but even one, it takes one to get in the pantheon. We will never forget good bands. The people here, they gave us one, they put all of their love and their craft into this, and we still listen to it. Now, second Oblivion album, Nemesis, with a weird cover. I will detract a few points for this weird cover that I really don't like and I don't understand at all. Whereas the first album is naive, it's awesome. The second album is still kind of naive, but like, what are we trying to do is exactly here. However, the music rules. They take everything that they were doing well on the debut and they tighten it up. They clarify the drum sound, and the drummer also became better, or perhaps just the sound gave him the opportunity to integrate. The guitar playing again is a clinic in essential thrash metal playing, where every part has something unique about it, without trying to dazzle you. Really, you will only be dazzled if you try to play this stuff and you realize how much conviction and what's the other word, kind of like discipline it takes to play like this. And because I think Oblivion were even better than this in terms of, like, if they wanted to play more notes, they could have, but they didn't. And I think that is what gives Nemesis its kind of unique characteristic. In my opinion, be a little bit better than the first album, or perhaps different, both worthwhile. Now, some people would say that Oblivion go on to become like a little bit of an industrialized Fear Factory clone. I would rather listen to Cybervoid than to Fear Factory personally, but I see it, like perhaps they lost some of their humanity along the way. The vocal became a little bit more like a Sepultura-esque kind of band crossed with Fear Factory, perhaps. I do listen to Cybervoid once in a while, but I need more listens to have a solid opinion. Now, I think this cover I found is a reissue. I think the Life Beyond has a different cover than this. This is the next Death Row album, after the seminal, in my opinion, Deception Ignored, and it is not as good. It is a band in decline. I would say that we fall, even though it's difficult to say why. The songs are not bad. The spirit of the band seems to have really, like, the light is dimming. It goes here even. It doesn't even go close to its brother. Even though, that's why I include it in the list, because sometimes Techno-Thrash is such a delicate balance that you can lose it without any clear insinuation as to what went wrong. I think the band was almost in dissolution at this point. Some of the great songs on this album deserve a different retelling, I feel, sometimes. Now we'll go to Chicago. This is a late in the game, definitely Techno-Thrash album. But this is an interesting band in the sense of Chicago. I'm right, like Chicago, yeah. Because they start the demo of Killing the Future, which is very good actually. It's 87, and this is extremely fast. Fast, tight, paranoiac, but not techno-thrash. They hadn't gotten to that point of like making their sound eclectic. But this is early, right? Like for this kind of style of very, very, very fast thrash, compact and kind of like to the point, perhaps 86, 87 is kind of the heyday, the peak. Now the album comes out extremely late. And by this point, this sound is not only outmoded in a certain sense, but also it smells a lot like Coroner, another Greek soul, I think here. I could be wrong, but this looks like a Greek name. We pay our respects to everybody involved. I think Aftermath came back as well. Yeah, I haven't listened to the new stuff because something is not inspiring me to do so. you may think there's something wrong here when bros say something went wrong. Also, Jesus Christ, something went wrong. See, the thing is with Aftermath, even to this point, if you read the lyrics, there is something extremely conspiratorial, paranoiac going on, which works to. This is the friend that I think is all about that. It works to this album's kind of like it works well for this album. You can kind of tell even by the names of the songs. Afraid of Time, The Act of Unspoken Wisdom. Where does it say decisions have been made throughout the course of history? Like if you remember things like that. He has vision, he has premonition, he can see, he knows, the eyes of tomorrow. The songs are really good actually. This album has a unique guitar style, a unique delivery on the lyrics. It's kind of like if Violence were a Coroner clone. They're not a clone. Aftermath have their own unique... the record cover, now this is a Geiger-esque piece of nonsense, but I do respect the phallic screaming guy. This is a tattoo and a half if you ask me. So if this was earlier, like 89, it would climb, but it would still not be a visionary work because it is strongly reminiscent of Coroner, which is not a bad thing, but Coroner are all the vision, right? So we have to respect that. However, this is a strong showing. I listen to this album a lot, I like it, I think it goes kind of here, above my gaze, because this song, sometimes the songs are a little bit ambitious in a way that doesn't work, but this is like you listen to the whole thing, you sing along with the crazy stuff. They did well. This is a fun album. Okay, now this is the point where Coroner are no longer this as well, but like are no longer a techno-thrash band. They are now a post-thrash band. They have completely ingested and metabolized the thrash cliches, and they come out the other end a streamlined, a clarified, a futuristic band. I often say to my friends, and we all agree, I'm seeing Coroner tomorrow, or not, I'm seeing Voivod tomorrow with Depressive Age, which is crazy. They kind of inspired this list in a sense, but I've seen Coroner coming back. I went and saw them live when they came back, and it struck me so clearly that like this band was coming from the future then, and they're coming from the future today. Like they have not been matched. Completely self-possessed. They sound like nothing else at this point. There is no competition. The intricate beauty in the guitar, the luxurious, and intricate guitar lead work juxtaposes beautifully with the very austere, industrial-esque half-thrash rhythm riffs. The band is in lockstep. No fun and no joy is to be had in these two albums. They are very gothy as well, but at the same time they are fun because the lyrics, they are only truths. You have to work at it. It's not clear always. There's Semtech Revolution, there's a few things that you can tell exactly what's going on, but there's other songs where like, even Grin is a masterpiece as well, even though it's not in this list. I thought I would cover the post-thrash up to Mental Vortex and No More Color. No More Color. Like, you have to be inspired to come up with stuff like that, right? And the Coroner were inspired. I often think I should get the little triskelion logo as a next. I have a Judas Priest tattoo, and I have a Candlemas tattoo, the skull from Epicus Dumicus and the trident, and they keep me balanced, one on each shoulder. And I'm like, yeah, but if I get the little, where do I put it, and how do I balance out? Do I also get the depressive age, little stillborn embryo? So, what do I do? Where do I put them? But I often think like this is. You should have the crest of coroner on you just to remind yourself that, like, if you really work at it, if you really find yourself in metal music, you may put out something that is not only beyond reproach compared to its peers, it is still coming from the future. The world will end, and the aliens will capture our broadcasts, and they will listen to coroner, and they will headbang. They will grow an appendage that can bang, so they can bang it. And two, they will be, what sort of world was this, where this came out of that world? And did the people of that world understand it? They didn't then. Today, if we go to Metal Archives, you will see the 92, 93, 100% reviews of every Coroner album. So this is an immortal masterpiece. It goes here. I'll fight with myself later. Let's put it here for now because we also have this going on. And this, you can see now, do you see the inverted triangle that we're starting to build? Techno-Thrash is no joke. You don't have to have 2,000 albums like death metal or black metal to have a genre worth discussing. And there's more. Like if you start looking into the underground, there's 100 more albums worth listening to. But like the creme de la creme, is no joke. We're talking about serious business here. Yeah, if you're a metalhead, I have spent a lifetime listening to these albums, and I wish I had 2 lifetimes. Now we go to America. We go to Fatal Opera. A few things I really need to say about Fatal Opera and what it means to me. This isn't even my favorite thing, but there's reasons. Do you see this guy? We will pay our respects to his brother as well in this band, but this is Gar Samuelsson from Megadeth. Heroin is a terrible thing. Many people have been lost to heroin. A lot of very sensitive people that couldn't take the cruelty of this world had to divert their sensitivity, kind of numb their sensitivities to this world by hard drugs, and we lost him very young. Why do I go into this kind of like eulogy? Because this is such a talent. I think my favorite drummer, top 3 favorite drummers, not just in metal. I would listen to Gar play the phone book. So we pay our respects, we lay down our swords at the feet of Gar Samuelsson, and even after Megadeth, with his brother Stu here, they play together in the New Yorkers, an extremely good fusion band. I wish jazz and heroin were no connection. The 2 albums they did, this is a collection of demos, but the 2 albums they did are both, in my opinion, very good, but uneven, because I think like they were slumming in a little bit, like they could do so much, so they did these. They feel like albums put together in an afternoon in a certain sense. But all those things, and also not necessarily techno-thrash, this is progressive metal in essence, but not even metal. They are slumming. They are taking from the Beatles, from art rock, from thrash. The songs are very different to each other. There's a lot of bluesy stuff going on. There's psychedelic extensions like jams. But whenever I listen to this, it does tire me a little bit. But at the same time, as I'm speaking, like after I'm done with the list, I'm going to listen to this again. I want to spend time in this place. I don't want to take drugs, but sometimes people that take the drugs have something to offer to the sober ones in this world. Look at this cover. Fucking Gorbachev. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm sure this cassette didn't sell very well. Only in the era, only in 1992, something like this. And like, what's the other band similar to this? Post-metal, because this is post-metal, but not in the melodramatic, like ISIS kind of sense. This is taking the tools of heavy metal and incorporating them in the larger picture that is doing a lot of things. And if you get it, fuck you. It has a lot of like of that spirit. Damn the Machine is a sister band to this in the spirit of things. All those things said, Sphere of Glass is a top 10 metal song in the world to me. The solo in this version, the drumming, the energies of the compacted energies, like shifting in a short song, like 3 minutes. I bow down, I put my forehead to the ground for people that can write like this. So Fate at Opera actually is a visionary band, but the vision is unclear. So we will go with a strong showing. See, climbing. Even if they're annoying at times, you will not fuck with talent of this magnitude. And if I listen to this more, I have a few decades left in my life, it may climb. So this weird cassette that nobody remembers, nobody, I disagree. I remember, and now you remember as well. You will listen to this. Going back, obviously American, yeah. Going back to Germany, a story that continues. Nobody expected it, but Depressive Age are back. I'm gonna see them tomorrow. In 1988, second generation thrash. They listen, introspection, self-abuse, drug addiction, depression. It's all true. They listened to the bands and they said, we'll make a band like that. It's one of those bands, although they existed as Blackout from as early as like the heyday of heavy metal. We will respect the lineup, even though, as you can see, a few extra people. We will respect this bright mind, and we will be happy that this person is still alive, and he's gonna bang my head tomorrow, involuntarily. This is very real. Yes, this is Depressive Age, a band with aesthetic, a band like Coroner that knew what they were doing. Berlin, my friend, writing exactly at the fall of the wall. Their prior band, living through this era. This is what metal looks like, if anybody asks you. So, going back to Depressive Age, they put out their first album. Both of those albums are masterpieces. I actually like the songs more on this first album, as well on First Depression, but the heavy meanings of this album are kind of like, this is what heavy metal can do. This is a challenge of telling the truth, and a challenge of poetry, and a challenge of sticking to your vision and not caring what other people are doing by 1993. This is definitely a visionary work. All the songs are good here. I think the story is that everybody was down tuning and Depressive Age tuned up to F. I don't know if this is true actually. Like, I don't know if this album, the Harris Jones production, is up-tuned, but it might as well be. Extremely high-strung goth thrash, sad boy thrash for 100%. This is a visionary work that I would put here, even. Yeah, I think, yeah. Even though they're a second generation band, they did so good with being themselves that they are a challenge to me and you to also be ourselves. I'm glad I listened to Depressive Age then. I'm glad I'm still listening to them, and I'm glad I'm going to see them tomorrow. The day is, well, you can see the date of the upload. Commemorating that Techno-Thrash is still alive. The band changed after the first two albums, and they became more of an alternative metal in their own very unique way. A very, very depressed, drug-related, psychedelically minded alternative metal band for a couple of albums, and one unreleased, I believe, as D-Age, and which are worth listening to, but too heavy for me. The emotions are too sad, too heavy. Very seldomly do I want to go there. Here, and on the second album, there are lyrics, there are concepts that are very important to me. There's a song called Beyond Illusions that says, I see pride, and I see gluttony, and I see hatred, and I see revenge, and I see what people are doing to each other, and I will never be blind. I'm never gonna pretend that I don't see what I see. I'm gonna live my life beyond illusions. That's another song, but like, they had a very clear goal with their music. The inner and the outer. Depressive Age are a band where the internal struggle and the struggle with the world have a strong dialectic. That's 100% for sure. Like, and therefore their vision is strong. Let me take a moment to stand up and walk around in my room because I've been sitting out too much and we are old men. You can take a moment to think about stuff as well. I'm not gonna cut and paste the video. It's fine. Take a little bit moment of recollection. All right. 2 hours down, about an hour to go, I would believe. Actually, there's a few repeats, so it might be easier. Speaking of repeats, we have the middle Voivod album in their progress towards the stratosphere with this amazing cover of a machine that eats souls. And that's how I read it, called Dimension Hatros. Amazing cover, amazing font, by the way. The lyrics inside the vinyl are written in this font as well, which is the coolest. In my opinion, between Killing Technology and Nothing Face, Hatros is the weakest. Oh my god, a lightning bolt is gonna hit me on the forehead, like Alive After Death. It's not weak. It's I don't know. Perhaps the songs need a little bit more time from me. Killing Technology still has that thrashy edge, and Nothing Face is pristine in its own unique way that is no longer that much about thrash. Hatros is a little bit transitional, but it does have a few songs that are top tier in my opinion. So in my mind, this goes. Oh no, the one I have to do it here. This goes here. It's still an immortal masterpiece. Like a Voivod album of this era is 11 out of 10 compared to anything else that you can find in metal. Interesting. The next band is interesting, an interesting offering. So from the Netherlands, 88, late in the game. That's too loud for you. This is 1993, actually late in the game, even though you can say that this is as well in a similar vein. I prefer this, even though the internet doesn't. Sacrosanct's album called Tragic Intense, with this beautiful cover. Very abstract, but beautiful cover. This is a terrible font, but like the rest of it is beautiful in my opinion. I see like alien ships that have crashed into some planet, I don't know. What do you see? This album is by a guitar player that left Pestilence. Pestilence is a famous seminal early death thrash outfit. Mr. Mameli, the mainstay of Pestilence, is a ridiculous human. Anyway, at some point he had a second guitar player in the band. I think this is the man. Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Maynard. Is the band active? That's cool. Did they put out anything new? It might be interesting to see. Ooh, interesting to see. Whatever this is, I want to see what he decided he's going to do with. If it's a return to thrash, that would be a little bit disappointing, because after leaving Pestilence, you could say the truth is what is kind of like an American style thrash record, but then we get into sad thrash territory, and especially Tragic Intense, in my opinion. Almost all the songs are great. They are kind of like a Sabbathy version of thrash, like there's thrash technique, but it's no longer, it's not a thrash record. And to the point that it is Techno-Thrash, it is because we are listening to technically gifted guitar players doing parallel leads and things that would belong perhaps in like a psychotic waltz record. The reason I include is because we celebrate anything that goes into the goth thrash territory. I think the story was like the singer in this album got fan mail asking, I hope you're alive, hope you haven't killed yourself. We should never joke about suicide. All that to say, sad thrash is a unique taste, and if you've ever thrashed but you've also been sad, you might not know that you need this taste in your life. All of heavy metal, all of dark music, for me, has never made me more depressed or more sad. Especially the metal side of metal, like let's talk about Epicus Doomicus Metallicus, starting with Solitude. Oh, please let me die in solitude. That song doesn't make me want to kill myself. That song makes me want to live, because it sublimates those. First of all, telling the truth gives you strength. Second of all, tying your truth, your meek truth, your small truth, things that the world wouldn't want you to say and admit to the bombast and the power of heavy metal, has like an alchemical, kind of like something bigger comes out of that than whatever you put into it. Similarly, like I don't mean to say that like this is a sad album that's gonna depress anybody. Much to the opposite, like it's just describing mental states and tying them to music that you wouldn't expect it necessarily to tie to. This is a very unique album. Even if it's not techno-thrash, I don't think they would admit to something like that. Although they might say, yeah, technical thrash, we are of this type of band. But like Watchtower, I don't think they would say they are. This is a strong showing. Actually, yeah, I wouldn't say visionary, even though it does a unique sound. Perhaps like a little bit more work on some of the compositions, but it's a high, strong showing. Like, I would rather listen to this and listen to Aftermath, but not Taramis. The first Megace album, with a great record cover, like there's also that, like, when the era of Techno-Thrash, like, because of the themes explored, you have to have album covers that kind of like communicate this is not your regular stuff, like something unique is happening here. Humor, hate, murder, cruelty, some part has been taken out and destroyed in an office where our thoughts, like there's a cabinet of thoughts, like there's obligations. Are we locked in here? Like, this is a record cover. I would pick this up even if I didn't know what kind of music it is, just to be like, okay, whoever came up with this had a reason to. This is the first one from '91, a little bit more savage. Like, I wanted to say also, like, the female vocals of Megace are, half of them are sung, half of them are like Holy Moses, like shrieking, high-pitched wail, which is super cool. No machismo, a woman is screaming at you. Back in the day when this was not very common as well. I will put this with its sister. Where did we put the sister? Here. Because it's 1991 and I think the band was a little bit more hungry, I'll put them close by though. The second Depressive Age album goes a little bit above the first, even though there are a few songs that I believe are a little bit filler-ish, but even then, like, even just the Eternal Twins and the lyric line in the first song, like, souls want to know what's on the other side of life. Like, I've thought about this a lot. Like, this is not a band that you should take lightly. So, in my opinion, just for thematic consistency and vision, even the aesthetic for the day, like, this looks more like a Converge record cover, which is much later. The logo, like, a lot of this is very forward thinking, and at the same time earnest, not ironic, not trying to hide from you. You will be confronted with certain things if you listen to this album, and for that reason it goes where it goes. We're going back to Australia for a second. I think Osiris is from this one. Netherlands, sorry, yeah. Let's look at the faces, young faces, a style that could only exist in the era. Let's look at the names. Now, this album is called Futurity and Human Depressions, which is the most techno-thrash name for an album ever. The album cover is the most Techno-Thrash thing I've ever seen in my life. I just love this. Like, by itself, it elevates the material. The material is not bad, it's quite good, but it is more like Thinking Man's Anthrax, kind of like Kinetic Descent or Berserker, that we'll talk about it soon, from Australia. I think we have the. Let's see, there's not a lot left. Yeah, here it is. I don't love this album, but because of the strong aesthetic, I wanted to include it to show that like there could be a time in the world where you could put a thrash album out with this cover called Futurity and Human Depressions. This goes a little bit more in this category, perhaps. Yeah, here it's not bad, but none of these are bad, and perhaps with more listens. But I find it hard to believe that something that sounds like Anthrax will ever completely win my heart. Now we'll go to Italy, because I don't think we have. We also have a Greek techno-thrash band called Medieval Death, with their demo, which is a very good demo, kind of like in that artsy Celtic Frost style, perhaps, but I didn't want to include demos, just to say there is a little bit of representation on every country of this style of music. Italy. Alright, the Italian Brain Damage. 88. We start with Signal de Revolta. I think this is quite left wing, as it should be. Worth saying, like techno-thrash on the whole. Thrash, first of all, was the style of metal because of the punk influence and the do-it-yourself influence. The style of metal more likely to have a humanist or left-leaning message, which is worth noting, because mostly it's worth saying that like historically it's been proven that metal music politically is on the conservative side, sadly, and whatever youthful lust it had for rebellion, now you look at the boomer kind of like aging metal musicians of the era, and most of them became Trumpian, or became, in any case, even if they didn't go that far, like even Watchtower. I remember like a guitar player and drummer making fun of rap music, like it's not musical, as if a whole world of culture and music cannot be musical, as if you can't find Tribal Called Quest in there, you can't find like a Jedi Mind Tricks, you can't find like, you don't have to go to like the arty stuff, like you don't find the musicality in Notorious B.I.G. Like you can't swing to that. What's wrong with you? So like it's anti-black. Like the sentiment is a little, even if they don't know it, the sentiment is kind of anti-black and kind of like, oh, we're making complex music and people didn't like that, and instead they went like to this simple and base, sample-based music. Like it's short-sighted. You would expect from people that could write something like Controlled by Confusion, Confused by Control, that wrote things like that, that they would have a little bit more enduring vision. But generally metal music, especially as it became older and older, became more ossified and kind of like conservatively minded. So that's another good reason to talk about techno-thrash, because it was for the brief moment the most radical heavy metal ever became. We don't have today necessarily a more radical substrand that is actually truly heavy metal, right? Because we have musicians and entities that borrow from heavy metal or do post-metal or deal with the metal sonics that have a radical agenda, but not a lot of bands with those kind of aesthetics, with a long hair, thrashing out, hoping for a better tomorrow, or at least understanding the world in a more complex way than just like romance and oh, the world was better before, or whatever, conservative kind of like foundations you can have in your thinking. Italy, though, had a great tradition of progressive rock italiano, and it was very connected with communism because of historical reasons. And I do think Brain Damage, Downfall, not written correctly, but Free Enterprise, Understanding Pain, they may be of this mindset. Also the daring collage kind of cover of like bombs falling and mines screaming might be related. This is, let's see the year as well and look at the lineup, because we should be careful and pay respects. This is also a band that did a lot of things afterwards, and now like I've listened to this, it's quite good, but it's like in a Meshuggah-esque style, convincing but Meshuggah-esque style. At this point in 1993, late in the game, but for thrash, but kind of like they have a very unique voice. This is a very technical, fast, punkish. There's an element of crossover, Techno-Thrash, and I like this album a lot. In 93 we can't talk about 88, formed in 88, yeah. We can't talk about visionary work, but it is a strong showing. I will put it above, kind of like close to McGay's. Put it between the McGay's albums. Now, another big chapter in Techno-Thrash that I'm only going to represent here with 2 albums, because all of their albums are Techno-Thrash, one of the few bands in the style. Well, perhaps one isn't, but like, this is Germany's Mekong Delta. Another band that you could say in a certain sense are bigger than Techno-Thrash, like it doesn't matter to them, even though very clearly we believe in this, they believe in this. If you told them, are you a progressive thrash band, they would say yes. The story has it, the band member and leader of this band, Ralph Hubert, with at the time Jörg Michael, the drummer, is that his name? I think it is, yeah. The early drummer, and Peavy I think was early in the band as well, from Rage, that was the initial lineup I think. Later people from Living Death came through, and other people. As you can see, like, this is a band clearly belonging to a person and bringing people in and out. They listened to Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica, and because Ralph Hubert is a classically trained classic guitar player and bassist, he said, this sounds like Stravinsky. And the second thought was like, I can do this better. So that kind of explains the idea behind the way he writes. Like, there's a lot of syncopated orchestra hit-like riffing in all of the Mekong Delta albums. Like, you could even say that it's a little bit of their own shtick. This band doesn't really change that much from album to album. It's like they came fully formed on the first album, even though like the production can be one thing, or some of the songs are this or that. That's why I chose this one and this one to represent. But like this and this and this and this, up to Kaleidoscope, Activision Fugitives actually, you could say that like the band was going from strength to strength in certain ways. This is a Mussorgsky complete like rendition of with a rock orchestration, which some people like, some people don't like, and it also has MIDI on it, which is not the best. And then the band comes up like 10 years later and puts out a lot of albums, not all of them which I've heard. I also saw them live during the comeback, and I wasn't that impressed at the time, so I felt like a little bit like, even though the vision is still there, the band is treading water. They're kind of classical, bent on their thrash is unique because it's not neoclassical. They are interested in the Russian romantic kind of composition of Mussorgsky, or like the saber dance or stuff like that, and then they have like the Stravinsky, the more kind of like cacophonous modern composition element to their writing. Just to say that like a band sticking to their guns for all these many years, making all these many records, of which none of them are really bad or not worth listening to, is a kind of a unique thing in itself. This is Dances of Death and Other Walking Shadows, with a very long song here. This whole part is one big song in a certain sense, but you can say it's broken down to like an opera in a certain sense. These are the people involved at the time. Doug Lee from Siren, doing a very important, in my opinion, kind of like crossover between the American side and German thrash. Very interesting voice. The songs are raging, usually very fast and very abrasive, but he brings kind of like a Rush-ian lyricism on top of that. This is the guitar player. Really? Hold on. Only House of Spirits? Also he played for Sodom. I remember his face. Very good guitar player, very unique style of playing. Not flashy, but it has a lot of essence to his playing. That doesn't sound like nobody else. Generally, Mekong Delta sound like Metallica playing Stravinsky. That by itself should be enough to recommend them. They are a visionary. They are high on the visionary pole. Even though I don't love all of the stuff, they are probably kind of like here, to be honest. Nothing else like them. Now, the other Coroner album from the era of pure masterpieces goes here, and the other Anacrusis goes, in my opinion, even with the worst sound, as I said, goes a little bit above. This is the first Mekong Delta album that is rawer, with a different vocalist, kind of like a more of a speed metal-y sound, some Lovecraftian themes. Perhaps the part of Mekong that is not as strong as other Techno-Thrash bands is the lyrical material. It's not bad, there's still ideas, but it's not as strong as Watchtower or Voivod or certainly not Anacrusis. I love the first album, but I think it's a little bit worse. I would rather listen to Dances of Death most of the time, but sometimes there's hits. There's hits in the first album, whereas this is a big composition. There's songs that you miss on the first album. Certainly for its era, it's also very early. Like, they come up with this style in '87. Like, only a couple of Techno-Thrash albums had come out by this point, so they deserve the accolades. Like, this is visionary. And also, if we're talking about vision, yeah, okay, it is more visionary. Even more visionary, even if I don't love it always, it is more visionary than Anacrusis. Like, when it comes out, there's really like a completely new sound. And now we are talking about the album that started it all. This is Energetic Disassembly, '85, although conceptualized earlier and recorded twice. Important thing to say is that the original pressing of this album has a very abrasive sound that it'll have to grow on you. It's not for everybody. The guitar sounds bad, the bass and the drums are bad. The guitar is non-standard. The kind of like a metallic, like a glass sheen, very trebly, not very chunky, not thrash really, but it's to the benefit of the bass and the drums that are really driving the music in a certain way. It's still, though, completely visionary. It's completely out of this world. It is punkish. It is it's challenging. It is still new wave. Like, there's elements of accept in here. It has a extremely high-pitched vocalist trying to find his way, but still coming. Like, McMaster hits his cues with authority. If you see the band on YouTube, we are very blessed to have YouTube. You see the band live during the era of when this album came out. They are definitely on stage the only heavy metal band that has ever existed. Like, if you were in that audience, you'd be like, fuck Metallica, fuck everything else. This is what it's about. They could command that kind of like enthusiasm. They are playful. It's important. There's a sense of humor. There's deep lyric, socio-political and otherwise. The band is not like Rush. They took the Rush challenge of like, if we're gonna play music, we have to write about real things, connecting the theme to the complexity of the music. They are the promise of Techno-Thrash fulfilled completely from the outing, and they are the original lineup, which means these people were friends. They were teenagers that grew up together, which is an immense power. This goes here. And why does it go here? Even though for all of my life I would rather listen to Control and Resistance. Recently the album was remixed, and with a little push to the sound, making it a little bit more discernible and clear to me, because it's not just a difficult listen, it's kind of a painful listen sometimes. Now that it's not, this year has been the year that I have been blessed to listen to this album like 100 times. And I was shocked to realize that nearly everything I love about the second album from '89 is there, and with an even more jubilant spirit in the debut. So somehow I fell in love twice in my life with Watchtower, and I rate the first album on the same level as the second album, and because it's first and seminal and came up with all the whole idea, it is the masterpiece of the genre. And the crazy thing is, I don't think anybody that listens to this music and all the bands that play this music would ever dispute this statement. Sigis even liked it so much they copied it. Okay, there's a story in the scene that when Watchtower listened to the German Sigis even, 85, life cycle on 88, so they listened to this, and they even listened to demos, the demo tape circulating about control and resistance. They put out a demo called Repression and Resistance. You can kind of tell a little bit, but that there is a heavy influence. And Life Cycle is also named after a song called Life Cycles from Watchtower. So the love was great. It was, the bands, the Watchtower were a little bit insulted at one time, but I think with the years we have accepted that, like, since Techno-Thrash became a genre and not just a vehicle for Watchtower, something like that was bound to happen. And if that was the whole story, somebody trying to do a bad version of Control and Resistance or Energetic, that would be one thing. But CG7, first of all, very quickly afterwards, like 2 years afterwards, are completely themselves. This album is not Techno-Thrash, this isn't even necessarily a metal album. It's a very eclectic progressive metal or progressive rock album, taking Rush to a completely different direction. It's a masterpiece, and this is a masterpiece, and well, the band changes here. Some people would call the rest masterpieces, but I am kind of like a early CG7 guy. But even the first album, which is definitely and defiantly a Techno-Thrash album, is not a Watchtower copy, in the sense that the people making it, especially the guitar player, is not a virtuoso like Jarzombek. The singer is not a McMaster or a Tecchio. He is a mid-tier talent. Now the bassist and the drummer are extremely talented, like fusion-esque players, but the production is not there. You can definitely tell that this is like a group of people of not as much talent as Watchtower, still dedicated to the idea of doing something great. Inside the record sleeve, there's a quote by Bertolt Brecht that says, the person that doesn't know the truth is merely an idiot. The person that knows the truth and hides it is a criminal. Tell me, how many metal records do you know with Bertolt Brecht quotes in them? So even though they are of not as much talent, at least at that time in their lives, because I think the guitar player really progressed, and even though they are kind of like a more of a messy thrash band trying to do like they're trying to do a Watchtower, the songs are good, the meanings are true. They are telling their truth. So they didn't misunderstand the brief. The brief was, you have to do the best you can. You have to upset a few people. You have to tell your truth, and you have to bang some heads because the world is ending. I've listened to this album so much with its dreadful record cover that nonetheless is telling its truth. I've learned guitar trying to play Struggler from Atlantis, the epic at the end of the song. Even though with the many years I'm no longer bewildered by this album. I can count it. I can even kind of tell how they came up with it. The drumming is still kind of like bewildering, to be honest. Even though like it has come into kind of like a more mild relief. It's not so much like a shock to the system. To me, it remains kind of a masterpiece of ambitions from normal human beings. Even at the end of the day, I wanna hone in on this. The Texan kids that made Watchtower were coming, even if they were lower middle class or even working class. I don't necessarily know the background of the. Even thinking like Jarzombek and his brother probably had from their parents. They bought them guitars and drums and all that. America is number one. America won the war. America is the winning country where the standard of living was the highest in the whole world. So the teenagers coming out of that world had different ambitions and different access to fulfilling their ambitions than some kids from Berlin. Oh, actually, is CG7 Berlin? Let me not make mistakes. Munich. And worth venerating the lineup: brothers on the rhythm section, Marcus Steffen on guitar, and Franz Herde on the vocals, doing a weird vocal but a very befitting vocal. I wouldn't change anything about, or even steps where he's like outclassed by what the band is rapidly learning to do. I would never change his vocal performance because he's you and me. He's a person like you and me trying to tell the truth in a difficult terrain. So that's why I want to say that like Techno-Thrash it was an inspiration from Americans, but what it inspired is best found, especially in Germany, in people with living in a country divided between East and West by capitalism, by the ramifications of the end of the Cold War, actually not by the ramifications of the Cold War. And it's no wonder that like Techno-Thrash stops when the wall falls, more or less. So even though you could say that CG7 on life cycles are a B or C tier in terms of talent, Watchtower, in terms of what they deliver on the album, the compositions and their truths and their performances, to me this is a visionary work that is up here. Yeah, up here I would say. I have listened to this album a lot and I will listen to it a lot more, and especially when you see how much further they push themselves after this album, it is an inspiration and a challenge to you and me. Even if we cannot play well or if we cannot sing well, we can still convey the complexities of our lives through the tools of this kind of music. CG7 should not be underestimated. They did such a good job that I think when people think of Techno-Thrash, it's like top 3. It's Watchtower, it's CG7, it's Coroner, perhaps Voivod, but Voivod is a bigger category, and because Mekong Delta is kind of like their own classical kind of thing, it is CG7 with one album. They changed later. Watchtower, of course, the originators of the style, and Coroner, who also are kind of like bigger than Thrash. So who believed the most? It was the copycat, the one that people made fun of, the one that stole a lyric. If you actually read the lyrics though of this album, you will see thinking, bright minds trying to tell the truth about very difficult subjects in this world. So justice for CG7 is what I say. Closing up a few more things, we've got Thought Industry from America, famously found by, like pushed to the record label, like they got a record, record deal because Newsted was a fan. They are from Kalamazoo, represent. You can see that there's something going on here. They start as Desecrator, they change on 89, late to the game, to Thought Industry. We're looking at the 92 album Songs for Insects with the Dali record cover. This is not even Techno-Thrash at this point, although it sounds completely like Techno-Thrash. It's very abrasive, has an element of crossover or hardcore. This is art metal, kind of like they are trying to subvert expectations. They're using Dadaistic techniques. The lyrics are, you tell me what you understand. I'm including them, even though this album has always been a hard listen to me. This is, I love that there is such a challenging album that even people that love the genre, there's things that they still cannot fully contain in their mind and in their heart. This is a visionary work, even though I don't understand it. I'm too stupid. Perhaps one day. Therefore, I cannot speak with authenticity about it. And soon thereafter, they leave behind thrash, like the youthfulness of thrash. They keep the abrasive element of like the noisy element of thrash, and the shouty vocal and all that. And they're very technical and meticulous in their compositions, but they become like just like a weird music extraordinaire kind of band. And then they become a very melodic, esoteric, and well-written alternative rock band, kind of like a Radiohead, perhaps. I like their other albums a lot. I cannot speak with authority about this band. I'm just including them to say that there was also stuff like this that came out of like, what if we play thrash but we bring like a lot of music school to it? I think somebody in this band is music school, probably the bassist, but even if they're self-taught, they're bringing a very artistic, like an equipped point of view. It's not, they didn't come up with it all on their own. They had some help from at least books, a well-read point of view about thrash. One could make cast aspersions of pretentiousness, but it's not going to be me because I'm not smart enough to understand it. So only somebody that really understands what Thought Industry is doing can tell us if they are overreaching or not. This is a visionary work, but I don't understand it, so I will humbly submit it here. Now, this is another Berserker, another Australian offering. Adelaide. We don't have a lot from Australia, so I wanted to highlight them. Another extremely fast album. The cassette cover is kind of bad, but charming. Lost. As you can see, the anxieties. Like, what would the ancient philosophers think about our state of affairs? I think this is 1990, yes, at the kind of the extremely fine records, at the end of the heyday of thrash and of techno-thrash. I've listened to this enough to have a sense of it, but I can't really tell you 100% if they succeed with what they're trying to do. What I can tell you that sometimes I want this shot of energy. Again, I will remind of, like, what if Anthrax were super fast and way more technical? One day I will love this, but for now I just wanted to submit it. I will put it kind of, I like this marginally more than Osiris. Perhaps one day I will like it more. Like Kinetic Descent, like they are similar in that sense. And finally, a Russian offering that is very famous today. It wasn't at the time, because probably nobody could find it. This is like an internet find. No, not this, not the Colombian one, the Russian one. This one. Yeah, you can get a sense of of Russian feeling even from the picture. A band in the destruction kind of category, kind of like the cracked brain category, similar guitar sound, with a very late offering that somehow has become emblematic of techno-thrash in the internet era, Extravastation. I like this. It's not my favorite. I've tried to get into it a lot. Some of the songs kind of fly by, but perhaps one day. By 93, I don't think we're talking about a visionary work, but this is definitely a strong enough showing that it kind of percolates through the internet to this day. Stronger than other things in this list of obscurities, because look at the strong showing. Fatal Opera, End Amen, so on. So even though I would never put it beyond this because it's so challenging, and I love listening to this a lot, and this kind of like here-ish, close to Aftermath, I think it belongs. So let's have a final look, as we 2 hours and 30 minutes talking about this is not bad. Have a final look at our list, and perhaps the ordering doesn't matter. None of the ordering matters here. It was just an excuse to discuss a very kind of like a connoisseur's microgenre in heavy metal. One often back in the day mocked, because all of this stuff compared to like Morbid Angel, or then later something like Dark Throne, you can tell that those ambitions completely overrode, just like thrash already had become childish in the opinions of extreme metalheads in 93 or 94. So when I was growing up as a metalhead, 10 years old, like if I'm 84 born, I started listening to metal at 10 years old. By 13, I was listening to progressive metal, I was listening to progressive thrash, and also the doom styles and avant-garde music and atmospheric metal and doom death and all that, the things that were happening at the time. This was already over. Only Watchtower was still kind of like, and Coroner were still kind of like casting a little bit of awe in the scene, because it was difficult to do. But quickly, even like Cynic, which people made fun of as well at the time, but quickly gained the reputation of like whatever Techno-Thrash was trying to do, Cynic finally captured. It's not true. Now that the world is coming to a close, now that we are no longer looking at things as a race of outmoding grandpa's heavy metal, now that it's all like, this is what we did with the time we had on this earth, this is what youthful people did with their guitars and bass and drums, instead of becoming like fucking bankers or investment capitalists, they wasted their youth putting out an artifact of culture. We should be more respectful of this era of metal, because it didn't achieve what the idea was with, I don't know, Injustice for All or Megadeth, like thinking man's thrash. No, we succumbed back towards like the machismo of Pantera. If you want to look at what happened with thrash, it became groove thrash, right? And a lot of these bands, like not a lot, but some of them have a despicable groove thrash period afterwards. But for a moment here, to be fair, like 87 to 91, 92, I think the story was told. Metal music was trying to be real and vulnerable and not macho, and still retain its metal edge and its subcultural traits of headbanging and wearing denim and the long hair. Like those two things try to coexist, and that's juicy contradictions, are life-giving contradictions between things. That's like Techno-Thrash is a story of dialectics. Progressive metal, not so much, because if you listen to images and words, you can say like, oh, this is like Pantera, not actually Awake, Pantera Heft and progressive rock. It's like, it's a different, we can talk about it at some other time, we can do an early progressive metal tier list as well. But thrash is like a teenage banger, not even grown up. He's going from 15 years old to 17. As existence is starting to, he just read 2 books and he got horrified. He got shocked by the understanding of the world around them, around him or them or they. I think that's what's so crucial about this micro genre. And it's important to not call it technical thrash, because technical thrash could exist today. You can make a band today where you're playing like Exodus and you just put more notes in, or progressive thrash. You can play thrash and put like a fusion solo or like a saxophone in there, and people do. There's a lot of bands like that today as well. Like, Vector inspired or whatever the fuck, like a wife beater inspired. But Techno-Thrash speaks of that era of like actual thrash metal, not trying to impress the future, but to express its present. And I think that's worthwhile to remember if you are a lover of metal history, if you are a lover of unique subcultures, music subcultures or otherwise. I'm certain there's like similar things in goth music, similar things in dark wave, similar things in like progressive music of all sorts, electronic scenes, going through like a period of transition that is vestigial, but has a very unique character to it. And I wanted to talk about that. So whoever you are that listen to all of this, I salute you. I hope you take some strength or knowledge from this. I hope you listen to some kick-ass metal. I hope you make a new love. I hope you readdress a past, how to put it, perhaps if you had a chip on your shoulder about certain things about like technical music, or compared to today's progressive like technical metal, all this stuff is like so simple, besides Watchtower probably. The rest is like so simple, but sometimes it's eloquent. And eloquence inside thrash is like just a juicy thing that we need to celebrate, even if it's just that, but there's much more. So, thank you for listening. Have a beautiful day, and see the things around you, look at them truly, and you can never allow yourself to be blind.